Yeah, and so like I need to think. That's weird. Exact same.
7 p.m. We will be having
Which means the other ones are. Like so fine. So you pretty good. So oh really? Yes, I'm a senior. Before we leave, I'm supposed to cut your line. What? Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they were probably
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to make sure I did get that. Cool. There he is.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I did.
I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
That was smart.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, April 14th, 2022 with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral grounds of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Pro Tempore Pineda Gomez will take it away with our first roll call.
Thanks so much, Evan. All right, to start it off, Anderson.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Broughton. Compton. Davidson.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Grills.
Here.
Heatherman. Hoffman.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Nisley. Long.
Here.
Lister. Lynn.
Here.
McFarlane.
Here.
McPhee. Middaugh. Murphy.
Here.
Navarro.
Here.
O'Donohue.
Here.
Oury.
Here.
Pelton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Pondillo.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Roth.
Here.
Saya. Solomon,
Here.
Shear Alexa,
Here.
Schindler,
Here.
Talbert,
Here.
Thomas, Vogelmore,
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, are there any speakers for first open period? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? The minutes were distributed on Tuesday along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Senator Solomon.
Move to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? All right, seeing none, the minutes will.
Can you do that proxies as well?
I'm going to get to that. Yeah, the minutes stand approved. So with that, we have our proxies. Tonight we have Rogers for Stout, Grills for Grolmes, Phillips for Strout, Thomas for Brown, Schindler for Clary Kial, Hoffman for Bannister, Alexa Shear for Carson Shear, and Solomon for Barron. And with that, we have our announcement. So the first announcement, the Open Alternative Textbooks Initiative will be holding their spring 2022 OATI review on Thursday, April 20th from 1 to 2:30. We're still looking for one student senator to attend that meeting. Contact me if you're interested. Then we have our information about proxies. If you are going to be absent from Student Senate for any reason, please fill out the proxy form. And if you are going to be physically absent but still able and wanting to attend Student Senate, please fill out the Zoom request form. Next, if you want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shoutouts form, and Speaker Pro Tempore Patena Gomez will read those at the end of our meeting. And the SGA member of the week this week is John Oury. John has shown us a lot of enthusiasm for SGA both in and out of Senate and has a lot of great ideas about how to effectively use his time as a student senator. We're very excited to work with you this term, John. These two I know aren't on the agenda, but I just want to give a quick plug. We are still looking for candidates for the position of intern coordinator. So if you or any other SGA member that you know or someone that maybe was in it in the past but isn't in it this year is interested in being an intern coordinator, please reach out to me. And also, I just want to plug the pins one more time. I know there's a couple cabinet members here tonight that might not know about our pins. We have these extremely cool enamel lapel pins that have the SGA logo on them. There's a couple people around the room that have them, or you can just come see one after the meeting, but they are $3. So if you're interested, you can Venmo me $3. And if you need my Venmo, you can email me, text me, or just come up to me after the meeting. And lastly, we have our upcoming events calendar. So on Sunday, we have, you can see it all there, but I just want to plug it. We're going to have all of our first committee meetings this week. So we have student allocations meeting on Sunday, strategic oversight, diversity, equity, and inclusion, tuition enhancements, and the student services fee committee will meet on Mondays. And Senate operations will meet on Tuesdays, as well as the Senate Executive Committee meeting, which anyone is invited to attend, and then obviously Student Senate on Thursdays there. And the quote of the week this week is, "No matter what people tell you, words and ideas can change the world." And that is Robin Williams as John Keating in the movie Dead Poets Society. All right, and with that, we are moving on to commendations. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 9? Chair Phillips.
I move to consider Resolution 9. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. If the author will please come forward.
Okay, this is Resolution 2223. Yeah. Hey, you missed. I thought you had the microphone. Resolution 22. Yeah.
Question or point of information question. Are we going to share the screen on the Zoom?
Oh, yeah, we're right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Am I good to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, third time. Resolution 222309, commendation to Linda Duke by Jacob Long and Peyton Lynn. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association strives to commend the exemplary work of university faculty and staff whenever possible. Whereas Linda Duke currently serves as the director from the Mariana Kistler Beach Museum of Art, whereas Director Duke has held this position for the past 11 years. Whereas under her leadership, several notable museum initiatives were achieved, including the development of virtual exhibitions and programs offerings to reach untapped audiences. Projects which serve to demonstrate the value of arts in multidisciplinary settings, the recruitment of several exemplary leaders to the museum's advisory council, establishing a partnership with the Gordon Parks Foundation to care for the museum's parks photograph collections, and participation in the Art Bridges Consortium of museums dedicated to making American art more accessible. Whereas additionally, Director Duke worked tirelessly to improve the museum's financial transparency, including the implementation of an internal audit and close work with the Kansas State University Foundation. Whereas Director Duke is dedicated to better understanding the role of aesthetic experience in learning, development, and the quality of human life. Whereas Director Duke will be retiring as of May 14th, 2022, and whereas KSU SGA should acknowledge and celebrate Director Duke's accomplishments in improving the accessibility and value of the Mariana Kistler Beach Museum of Art. Be it resolved that the Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends Linda Duke for her exceptional work and dedication to the world of art. Upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Director for the Mariana Kistler Beach Museum of Art, Linda Duke, Kansas State University Lindy E. Bell Department Head of Art, Matthew Gaynor, Mariana Kistler Beach Museum of Art 2021-2022 Advisory Council, United States Senator Jerry Moran, and Kansas State University President Richard H. Linton.
Awesome. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Chair Phillips.
Yeah, quick correction on line 38. There should be a period at the end, not a semicolon.
Awesome. Thanks, Blake. Are there any further questions or corrections? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve Resolution 9 unanimously? Senator Grills.
I motion to approve amendment. I can't talk. Resolution 9? Resolution 9 unanimously.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 9 unanimously. Are there any objections? All right. Seeing none, Resolution 9 will stand approved. Okay, and with that, we are moving into committee reports. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report at this time? I have one. Bryce, do you want to pull up the, hold on, let me come over there. All right, so we're gonna do our committee reveal now. Sorry I didn't have the Jeopardy music. I just really didn't want the YouTube video to get copyright struck. So the way this is gonna work is once Bryce clicks to the next slide after I ask him to, we're gonna have like a normal looking Jeopardy board. It's gonna say category 1 through category 6. Anyone can raise their hand, raise their placard, and I'll recognize them and call on them. Pick a category, pick a dollar amount, and it'll pop to a slide with a list of people's names. You should ask, the question you should be asking is, what is X committee based on the names of the people that are up on the screen? Just guess based on like vibes, I don't know, whatever you think looks right. But yeah, so Bryce, if you want to click to the next screen. There you go. All right, so anyone can raise their placard and I'll call on them and pick a category, pick a dollar amount, and then we'll get rolling with it. Senator Lynn.
I want category 2 for $1,000.
Category 2 for 1,000. Vice President Ebeck.
Senate Ops.
That is correct. Awesome. So those were all the members of our 2022-2023 Senate Operations Committee. Thank you, Bryce. All right. Next one. No. Someone else. Andrew Booz.
Yeah, category 6 for 800.
Category 6. Ooh, who could it be? What could it be? Anybody have a guess? Chief of Staff Richenberg.
What is DI committee?
That is not correct. Senator O'Donoghue.
What is student services?
That is also not correct. President Volgamore.
What is strategic oversight committee?
That is not correct. Senator Lynn.
What is the Tech Committee.
Wrong again. Senator Bellamy.
Student allocations.
Correct. Oh, wait. I was totally wrong about that.
That's tech.
Click the slide.
That's tech.
Click it, Bryce.
Tuition enhancement.
Peyton was right. How devastating for me. All right, you want to go back to that slide with the names? So those are all of the members of the Tuition Enhancements Committee. Alrighty, what's next? Ooh. Someone pick a category. Vice President Ebeck.
And I do category 5 for 1,000.
We already did category 5. We did 6? I don't know what's going on. Yes, category 5 for 1,000. Ooh, that's a big one. Who could it be? Who could it be? Who could it be? Someone raise their placard. Someone that has not guessed. Please guess. Senator Pilchard.
I'm guessing this is the student services people.
You are correct.
Yay!
I'm gonna go back, guys. So we have, what do we have left? 4, 3, and 1. 4, 3, and 1 are left.
It's all up here. This is steel trap.
Senator DePaz.
I choose category 1, 1,000.
Category 1 for 1,000. That's a good-looking group of names. What could it be? Who could it be? Anyone want to guess? Senator Lynn?
Is that Strategic Oversight Committee?
As a matter of fact, I think that is strategic oversight. It is. Alrighty. We have 2 categories left, 3 and 4, 3 and 4. Someone raise their placard. Senator Navarro.
I'll do category 3 for 400.
Category 3 for 400. Another good-looking group of names. Who could it be? What could it be? Senator O'Donoghue?
What is DEI?
That is correct. And thank you for saying it in a question. Yay, DEI, woo. All right, we have 1 category left. Who wants it? Senator Hoffman.
Yeah, category 4. Wait. 3. 1. No, 1.
We did
It's
one.
4.
It's 4.
4?
For what dollar amount?
800.
800. All right. What could it be? What committee could it be? Woo, nobody knows. Someone want to guess? Senator Solomon.
What is Senate office? No, wait. What?
SAC.
It is SAC. Alrighty, awesome. So really quickly, if the chairs all want to stand up, everyone pick a spot in the room, go find your chair, just do a quick huddle, introduce yourselves, get to know everybody very briefly, take like 3 minutes to do this. Thank you, everybody.
If you forgot what committee you're on, you can also approach the chair.
We have tuition enhancements with Chair Thomas in the back of the room. Senate Ops is up here with Bentley, DEI over with Joseph, Jacob with student allocations in the back corner, student services fee up here with Blake in the front corner, Chair Saya all the way in the back.
Hello, Kyle. Thank you for being part of the committee. That's awesome.
Yeah, I started back in like 20.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to be doing some awesome stuff this year. We're going to be reviewing a whole lot of committees. I'll be sending out an agenda, hopefully tomorrow. But specifics on the meeting. That's going to be at 5:30 in the If you can't be there, it's totally fine. Like, I know that it's a really short notice, but our meetings will be Mondays at 5:30. those meetings go till 7:30. Generally, we get gallery. Marcus can probably tell you. We'll be committee last year, Marcus. I've been it's gonna be involvement, just the student activity fee, which is a lot of small things in it, such as like the money that the student allocations committee allocates. We get to determine how much that is. We get the academic competition teams, I'll go into the specifics on Monday about kind of the mindset that we need to have this year, various different things, but it'll be a whole lot of fun.
Alrighty, if everyone wants to start finding their seats here in just a second, we're going to get started back up again. Alrighty, if everyone could please find their seats again, we're going to get started back up here in just a second.
We're only going to have 2 meetings this semester. Don't worry. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I
Alrighty, thanks for that, everyone. It's going to be a really exciting year with all of our committees. I know all the chairs are really looking forward to it, so we're excited to get started. With that being said, are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report? Alrighty, seeing none, are there any directors who would like to give a report? President Vogelmore.
Will this be a mic to use for?
Come on.
There we go. All right, real quick, I got a couple things to update you all on. From the executive side, we've got 2 people to swear in, and then we'll move right along. So, first of all, this week we had the Hlc Accreditation. So that was a Higher Learning Commission, came to Manhattan. They met with administration, they met with faculty, they met with a panel from Shared Governance. So several of you were there in on that meeting. That I think went well. Then there's also Student Open Forum that we've talked about a couple times. So thank you all for attending that. I think it went well. I don't really know what the outcome or when we'll know about that is, but we'll be sure to keep everybody posted. So that was good. Other than that, coming up next week, the Student Advisory Committee for the Kansas Board of Regents is next Wednesday in Hayes. So we'll be traveling there. Some things to note on that will be funding. The governor's budget is still, they've approved about half of the funding to higher education through that. The other half is still a little bit contingent, coming up on the end of the legislative session. So there will be a few things to hopefully update coming out of that, and kind of looking at where the tuition freezes and all that information's at. Otherwise, a couple quick things. So the Classy Cats won a national championship recently. So if any of you, yeah. That's awesome to have a national championship from Kansas State. So if anybody's looking to write legislation, I think that would be an awesome commendation. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. If you need any information, come talk to me. I'd be happy to. I don't want to do it myself. I'd love for somebody else to have the opportunity to have some experience with that. Otherwise, specifically with our administration, so we had our retreat on Sunday, which was our first meeting getting together. That went really well. We got everyone around the table. We basically went through mission statements. We talked about our administration mission statement, which I had on my phone and I left it over there. But I can bring that back to you all later. But essentially, as it relates to you all, we are committed to coming and delivering reports with anything that's relevant and pertinent to the Student Governing Association. And as well as that, if there's legislation or anything that might impact some of our initiatives, we are going to be here. We're going to be invested and we're going to be involved through the Senate with you all. So we'll be working with you through those processes. Otherwise, we had our first cabinet meeting tonight. Went well. We're going through one-on-ones and really just getting everybody transitioned. So one of the first initiatives kind of charged from President Linton is creating a recruitment task force. So Bryce and Warren, our recruitment director, as well as Dakota Cherney, is going to help chair that as our PR director. And essentially, we're just looking at how can we involve students in the recruitment, enrollment, and retention, processes and everything at K-State. Otherwise, I think that's all I have. We're still kind of getting everybody transitioned in. So if there's no questions on what we're working on, we'll go ahead and get our 2 members sworn in, then get out of your hair and move on through the agenda. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Marcus.
Yeah, one question. How often does the Higher Learning Commission come to universities to listen and get data and everything?
Great question. So the accreditation, and I believe Derek can maybe correct me on this, but I think every 10 years we're up for accreditation. So essentially, us being accredited through the Higher Education or Higher Education Learning Commission, my knowledge is kind of like a stamp of approval that allows us to receive funding and is just an overall good thing for the university. Was there anything else you would add on that, the HLC, what that was about?
They don't approve funding, they bless your operations, which makes you then worthy of funding.
Right.
For federal government, state funding, private dollars.
Right.
They're also looking for, they really are just good practices. How can you get a little better? How do you work in a unit? Our campus is so large and diverse. Sometimes we don't always work well together always. And so they'll pick apart a little bit of our structures and operational practices, and then make recommendations that are geared towards making us better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Marcus.
Sorry, quick follow-up. So what are the implications for if the university loses their accreditation? What does that mean for the quality of our programs, the whole shebang? Can someone explain that, please?
Great question. Derek?
We stand no chance of not being accredited. They may have some critiques that make us better in certain areas and say, well, maybe in this area of the institutional operation, you need to do more of this. We would know if we weren't going to be approved in advance. I mean, there are some universities and colleges that get critiqued at a significant level, and that typically it comes out instead of a 10-year approval, we may come back in 3 years. And right now, a lot of universities are, if you're going to get critiqued, it's in the area of funding and enrollment and sustainability, basically, of being able to maintain an operation that's worthy of continual support and approval. So the university then breaks out into, typically your academic units get their own accreditation work. That's where you're going to see more fine tuning of, hey, you need more faculty in this area of research, or you need more laboratory space, or your students are expressing a need for this issue to be addressed. I mean, but typically the HLC is really an umbrella organization. Their typical things that they look at are your assessment practices, your engagement with students, maybe community town and gown relations, funding structures, DEI kind of initiatives, organizational structures of how units report to each other. Those are the things that they would typically ask for more nuances for. It's, like I said, we're not going to not be accredited. And it's a 2-year process leading up to this, where the document it's out on the HLC. I think it's under the president's page.
Yeah, I've got
It's
a
like
link with
1,500
more information,
pages.
yeah, that I can share out. But yeah, essentially in kind of the open forums is more of an opportunity for students to anonymously express concerns and highlight some of those areas where maybe we can improve, and there aren't maybe as clear avenues for communication. So yeah, is there anything else on that? Yeah, Marcus.
Sorry, different topic. So going back to what your comments were about the charge to make a recruitment and retention committee for students.
Yeah.
Has it been identified what departments you'd be working with on that? Like with faculty, staff, or whatever, or has that yet to be defined?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what we're doing right now is delineating and kind of identifying the charge for this committee. And the general mission is how can we engage students as students that love Kansas State, love our experience, who's better ambassadors for the university than us? How can we engage students and student organizations in that process? So what we're kind of looking at before we put this task force together, and this task force might even more be just like a think tank of what can we do, but some of those organizations would be working with the ORA. How can we get more and the best quality of students working for the ORA? How can we engage student ambassador groups across campus and ensure that we are communicating a consistent message from all of our ambassador groups that are giving tours and are all engaged in the recruitment process at K-State? And then where are the opportunities for other student organizations? How can student government, student governing association be involved in our recruitment? There's a lot of high school organizations like Boys State and others where hearing about our robust shared governance system might be a great recruitment tool for Kansas State. So how can we engage other student organizations in those processes as well and really just centralize our messaging and make it so, it's really just trying to figure out how we can engage the students in that process. Very early on in that, but something we're going to be trying to tackle very early on.
Are there any further questions for President Vogelmore?
Cool. Well, if there's no others, if I could get Director Whitt and Director Rankin up here, we'll get you sworn in and introduced. Yeah. All right. So you just raise your right hand and then at the end of the oath, say, I will. So I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Executive Branch Cabinet and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association.
I will.
Awesome. Now, if you could introduce yourselves with name, major, pronouns, hometown, your role on cabinet, what is your position, and then the traditional SGA greeting of what is your favorite smell?
Cool. So hi guys, my name is Zach Rankin. I'm a junior here studying integrated computer science with a concentration in leadership studies. My hometown is Valley Center, Kansas, just 10 minutes north of Wichita, and I am going to be serving as the technology director on executive cabinet.
Favorite smell?
Oh, my favorite smell. Very specific. It's a candle from Bath & Body Works. It's called Paris Cafe. That specific candle.
Hi, my name's Taylor Whitt. I'm a junior here at K-State, currently studying athletic training and rehab sciences, but I'm switching to journalism and mass communications this summer. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from Bentonville, Arkansas. So if you've ever heard of Walmart, that's Walmart headquarters. Shout out Sam Walton, it's a great place. I am Director of Sexual Assault Prevention and Awareness. And my favorite smell is also a Bath & Body Works scent. It is champagne toast, but more specifically, only the one wick candle. So.
Great, thank you. And if there are no other questions, we have nothing further. But there is maybe one other director's report.
All right, thanks, Parker. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report? Director Whitt.
Okay, so April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Office of Institutional Equity and Center of Student Involvement are holding a small resource fair in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It is going to be Wednesday, April 27th, 11 to 1 p.m., and they are offering us a booth at the fair. So if you want to work, you can message me. I'll send out my email and everything to work with me. And then if you can't make it, that's totally fine to work. But April 27th is also National Denim Day. National Denim Day is a day to wear jeans with the purpose to support survivors and educate yourself about sexual assault. So if you can't come to the booth, that's totally okay, but a great way to participate is wearing denim that day and definitely spreading the message out.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Director Whitt?
Yes.
Senator Grills.
You said the 27th, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to be sure.
Are there any further questions for Director Whitt? All right, seeing none, you may take your seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further directors that would like to give a report? All right, seeing none, we will now move on to college caucus time. And Juan's going to explain a little bit about what this college caucus time is going to look like.
Okay, so for our first college caucus time, we're going to have all the college caucuses, that is like your specific academic college, whether that be like business or engineering or arts and sciences. You will all split up and go to a different place in the union, and then from there you will elect a caucus leader. At the same time, I want every caucus to come up with a list of goals that they have for this year, and I will walk around to the caucuses and I'll make sure that not only you have your caucus leader elected, but also that you can email me that list. Also that like caucus leader election isn't like super formal, so just like very impersonal, kind of like give a spiel. If you want to run for one, I would really encourage it. I was a caucus leader last year and I think it was a great opportunity.
Just a housekeeping thing, if one person will bring a device with them, I'm going to send out the Zoom link right now. Just one person open that Zoom link, and then we're going to open the breakout rooms, and you're going to be able to join those yourselves. So just join whatever breakout room is named the same name as your caucus. And for the folks on Zoom, if you could do the same thing, just join whatever breakout room is the name of your caucus so you can participate in those caucus leader elections as well. That would be great. And if you are a proxy, don't worry about that. No proxies in the caucus leader elections. Just whatever the folks that are here, go ahead and vote for your caucus leaders. Alrighty, so go find somewhere in the union.
What time do we need to be back?
What time is it right now? 7:56. If you need a little bit more time, just let me know, but try to keep it to 20 minutes.
Business at the Redinas. Yes, I am here.
Do you want? Everybody else is gonna leave, so I mean.
No, it's good. You guys are.
There isn't like an official release process on
Evan, we can't choose breakout rooms. We have to be assigned.
Thanks for I'll get some goals.
Not necessarily. I mean, like for people who just have here. I mean, you're what time is it? So, we have
7:56.
We have
give him like 5 minutes for questions.
John. So, Jyoti's not here today.
One of these nights, maybe it would be best interest.
I mean, if you're, I can definitely do it.
It seems like you're definitely the most thoughtful one. You want to give well, if you want to give Bryce a night, because I think it would also be just whenever I have to chair the one meeting. And then that way, like, if you're busy, tied up, I can stand up and help you.
I mean, it's not a bad thing for us to do. And like, if you delegate to us, like, if you reach out to people, or you tell us to reach out to people, we'll like, just send it to you.
those advisors sometimes maybe an appearance of which is
You guys want me to do
her being the SG advisor, but so to speak,
Yeah.
I think that's
Dear, are you heavily opposed to John being Caucus Leader?
students on the other hand.
You have an SGA assessment? What, are you supposed to like sprinkle bird seed on them?
I like it. I'm learning more and more as the weeks
Make our
go
college
on.
more what?
My last semester, once again, I'm learning process. It's been a long time.
You're at wait. Okay, sorry.
My roots are the student senate agreement.
I
192. So my daughter also. My oldest daughter was student senator.
And so I think that would be like a diverse Jackson. Happy to speak at it.
She's been out.
I know. I'm constantly.
What is that?
So I was in art. No, Arts and Science University Summit. I want to take one for HHS. Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of all.
She was like our sophomore, junior, senior. She was college of
So, like that was really cool.
Sophomore year, she didn't do anything. Her junior year, she was
okay.
For HHS?
and then she's also on the tuition fee committee. Her senior, she was student teaching. And her mom, said, don't run. Run if you want to. She, by the time she got to
yeah, so they had like a little option had some event happen today. I'm debating. Yeah. He was like singing when I was walking through the union. Like, he was out in the courtyard. There's like nobody there. He was like, I thought it was just like music. Actually, but so like I mean, I think like I
literally remember the first time
kind of tried to do it what I do.
Make friends. I mean, literally,
That's beautiful.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And so I feel like we have 5 or 6 right now. So next year, like our goal, try to have more people running. And like,
oh my gosh, kind of attention student meeting tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Students.
Yeah, where you can't run and then get the top. Yeah, I just.
So okay, cool. So you can be Caucus Leader.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, great. Because I knew kind of the backstory where the students were going to be. You know, it's kind of the where they were talking and thinking. Not that I used it or abused it. It was nice to kind of know kind of what the.
There's something about politics that
sometimes like
we're gonna have Caucus
you get
Leader
the
outreach.
synthesized, sanitized version of stuff. Yeah. So I'm excited. It's going to make me a better informed administrator.
I was talking to you about it, guys. You guys could email me that.
I think I've sometimes
Oh, we have to. Oh, okay. Yeah. I realized we were gonna list of goals. All right.
I mean,
I'll give you an example. Two weeks before Big Patty's Day,
And we talked about like in those
I think we're going to have significant big patties. Business people,
what's better endorsement than that?
you know, are saying, no, it's not going to be a big deal, you know, the other bars. I'm like, I need
Alright,
a little
let's
stuff
get
from our
goals.
schools. They've sold more wristbands than ever before and all this other stuff. And I'm like, people didn't believe it.
Basically, we just
So I
talked
went
about.
to the SGA.
I'm making this all professional. I really need to. So one.
To the Tuesday night. What's that? I mean, you're faking it this week or next one. They were like, one guy.
I don't know what they're here for.
And I said, they just want to say Patty's Day. Everybody went, yeah, but how are you bringing friends out of town? And I started passing the word.
My question is, I don't know if you have an answer, if I
Thought
can ask
that this
it.
was not going to be a big deal. And I said, look, I'm hearing from our students, this is bigger than what we as administrators think it's going to be. You know, the students can make this happen. They don't even need any formal, you know, the social network is so much better. We like the big party down on the train.
And so I was calling her to make sure she knew that
And
that
I
was
said,
an
I think we're going to have more people
But
than we
there's
want.
in Arizona.
So then they kind of reformed, you know, the Riley County, like, oh, we're going to bring people in. Riley County, or
No,
Eastern
yeah,
Police,
yeah, I
we're going to
agree.
bring people in. As we didn't bring it up, like, don't specific. And there was a time in the.
I mean, honestly, yeah. I have a question.
Please.
I was running for Senate office.
advisors and stuff in their departments, right? And be like, hey, like, can I get what they're getting at the beginning of the year, just
part of what I know.
exchange program? That'll be better than just trying to. And I won't include that because that's like
And as an
extra
administrator,
steps, right? But that'll be a part of advertising. So, and we can.
I think we should have like a whole call.
Anyway, it's good.
I don't know about you, but I mostly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know anybody from any other college. I agree. And I mean, PFP is a unique scenario because we are kind of business oriented. I mean, everyone's the one
I'm kind of education.
right, and so I mean, HHS is sort of, which is good. But I agree with you. Like, I don't graphic individuals were other majors, honestly. And
So I feel like we should be all the teachers have to be there. We're gonna force staff.
we're not gonna force that.
I don't think we can do that.
Get a representative.
We're gonna say,
I think we have an advisory time.
and we're gonna
School get together. I don't know. I mean, I think that's not a bad idea. Like maybe like get an individual for each department, right? Like,
later,
and we have Lacey's. Lacey's the catering service, so
Mostly the attorneys is getting on board. Here's what we need from you.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
We're not.
But I'll put it on the
standing in
store.
the way of
Create
your-
HHS Diversity Summit.
You need to
Have our individuals run. Advertise SGA.
Give us the
And all schools get together.
the documentation. And we sort of backed away from saying we need
Nice.
creating
Sound
a
good?
process where you give us a simplified list.
That's one. So.
Here's the names of the people, here's their signature, here's our president's signature.
Cool. I think I'm probably gonna hop on all stuff.
These guys are in,
Peace.
right? Really just need to live it.
I don't think so. How long do this?
Question that came up
We might be.
earlier this week is.
It might be closer to 11, but.
Right, and that was your question. Does that mean they've got to come back on campus? Yes. The exemption doesn't apply for you.
everybody
to
plays
get out of
baseball
your-
has a minute.
Through-
That's a good point. Off of traveling.
According to their club president, they don't make any money.
That makes sense.
And they all volunteer and they.
Right, well, so that's,
Right.
you know, that, I think is Kevin's response was, you know, back in the in a role, we had a pretty good understanding of who was in, who was out.
I'm glad it's.
We may have a semester.
Like water is, oh my god, water is terrible. I feel like they just need to tear it down.
There's like
But still like asbestos. All
Directors.
It's listed in our
So
That we should get back.
sports club committee, like
That's headed this way.
water is also very sticky.
Sticky.
Not here.
I have a post.
I really didn't think anything but
I wouldn't say it was earlier.
So
I think it was one of the first ones.
thinking themselves.
One of the first like modern.
Yeah.
One of the first buildings.
One of the first buildings, I think.
There's
It was right up there with
some
Shakespeare's.
work going on now.
They put so many
Lungs,
wings on it.
Like the annex.
Like Joe's jump through the space. They just go your kids. Out like yeah, it's like a highlight, right? And so
Lydia, too.
Hey. Which is
It's, we would know, we truly, we would know. I mean, there were big.
I'm here to something process. Not tell you. And
Tuesday, someone said it was like, Untitled College in Arkansas that's maybe at risk of losing its accreditation, and that's the only one on the HLC website that's like in a warning.
Well, so you want to draw multiple comparisons. Bethany in Lynchburg was on the watch list. Yeah, that's, generally for small schools, bless their hearts, they just need a substantial investment in dollars.
Yeah.
You know, when their enrollment tips over a little bit,
So
and
maybe
the funding,
It's gonna
everything.
be-
it won't take long tonight.
It's gonna be a good time. But we'll see. I mean, it's
Now you've got a problem.
but
So they did a massive,
we had like
they have a very massive fund.
last week. I was so fast.
You know, community partners, and I think they generate enough revenue. And
Save me 40 minutes.
substantially saved. There, sometimes places get the debt. From HLC, or other, but we're in the HLC, there's the Southern
can't find
They go to like the bowling alley or something.
That's what I was thinking, but then I figured I should also have my phone, use my watch, and
That's-
like right.
So you end up.
So I don't want to be like
Good point. Yeah.
be the one walking in late.
Yeah.
Unless you're a small.
What time did they say?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I missed the time.
56.
Enrollment.
What? 56? Oh, we have so much time.
One that I would be, I would say it's on the line.
Did this process last year? We're choosing a U.S. senator, or caucus leader. We didn't get one chosen for like
I don't know
weeks.
how.
We got down to 2 people in HHS last year.
Competitive.
Well, no,
I've
we
been
got
at
a
triple
triple.
times.
There were only 2 senators for HHS
they're-
in general, and so like I was a chair, and one of the other people was a chair.
That's gonna be
So we
the
had like 4
question
people
that
that they
HLC
chose, and 2 other people didn't want to do it, and so
I'm gonna be honest. Look, we've gone from 2,400 students to 1,800 students. They're losing faculty, they're replacing faculty, get some key academic programs in United Place.
obviously it takes a bit more time than our
Faculty in.
organizations, but also like
Once that starts happening, that part about it, once you start raising students, you make decisions per program, then that starts drawing the attention of the accredited. We're more likely to have individual program accreditation. That's not what this was about. This, that would be more, you know, like.
oh yeah, ACOG stuff, yeah.
Like you get like our accountants.
We have an interim meeting right now. I can't remember his name. I was in the search committee for the dean.
They come in and do typically
we were supposed to know by like the
we
Monday.
run a
after
5-year
Thanksgiving.
batch, now we're on a set.
Supposed to be
That's the highest level. But
They
they come in and say, well, you don't have.
real tall guy, like 7 foot, like he was so tall.
That's right, yeah. That was a true statement.
He was massive.
He showed up. So you have to address some of the critiques. One of the things that they'll make some really critical, what's interesting, they're asking questions.
He was a pretty cool guy. I got to meet him a couple times when I came and visited and stuff.
What would you want
Like when I was taking photos for Senate for the first year, he like walked past us and he was like, "What are y'all doing?" And we're like, "We're taking photos and stuff." Nice.
Right.
So
One of the things that
I love
came
your
up in
time.
our meeting on the first morning was.
We have an interim meeting right now, and
Services
we're hoping
significantly reliant on student.
there's a possibility the search might be failed.
Think about, let's get the counseling services. Their budget is 70% to student services. And you think about critical resource that's being funded by our students. I care, you know, as our enrollment has dropped over, you know, those needs are not going away. So that would be a weakness of our budget. You know, we started a new budget model
Somebody who has
about 4 years ago.
capacity, somebody who's aspiring, somebody who can look at
Obviously, the
details,
pandemic
also
back
make sure somebody has some experience in the position, right? Whether that be being dean, associate,
A lot of our key
even a department head,
business,
depending on how the size of the department.
student support things,
I mean, it's more
heavily on our
qualifications than that, right? I mean, there are like thousands of
you know,
people
directly
apply,
from
you
student
just narrow it down
services.
by a search
And
department, and the
when
search
cuts
gives
are
us like
made,
a
it's
list
not
of names,
the
and it's like,
tuition
here's
side
their
coming
like,
in, backup cuts. We're cutting inside the circle, right?
well, I mean,
You know,
it's also
and
just like
we're
people
cutting
apply at any given time. The
the Levine program, direct search. You know, all the entities that are there to support engagement, all the things that make.
I was at a different meeting and one of the like
It's sort of on a line.
department heads was like, yeah, I was waiting for them to announce it.
Now, like,
Yeah. We like made our final decision on the Monday.
Sort of reflects a little bit of, you know, we
Gave
have.
our recommendations on Robos, we gave 2 positives, with 3 finalists. We were like,
Either
make
go
sure
up or
you
down
do
based
this
on,
for this person.
and it wasn't,
And Robos gave 2, like, all right, I'll have to keep my next year.
you got less money.
Because that was the Monday after surgery. It's now
You
not
lost
that.
students,
So,
there was a
our top
disadvantage.
candidate, this is
You
conversation.
know, if you had more students, you didn't get a.
Top candidate,
Higher level.
I'm sorry, I have a candidate.
So why would you grow? Just grow. So this is a better model.
Kind of a mess.
Yeah! So that's interesting. I might go through all the work.
Okay, wait, it's
Which, like, it was fun. Like, it was fun, but, like, I do so much like my own search. So,
probably a month.
We'll see. But,
Generated.
because I was really
I don't have any
confused.
worries. I suspect they.
And now it's been a while.
Yeah.
And they have paused. We did not structure the vice president for diversity.
You didn't, this is who?
That was a
Who's,
critique.
is there anybody who's on the
I don't think there's
But I think
anyone,
I don't think
it's already decided.
program. So like they do new org chart.
Oh, you think?
I know that they.
No, no,
And I
it's guess.
would say our institutions our assessment office. They don't have a big assessment.
Yeah,
And assessment is
There are too many of us.
important to do.
We also have Wait, so who else is
Okay.
Wow. Caucus Leader, Lowry.
Everybody's got tea.
I need to take the EI chair actually. You need to put it in yours.
What do you think about
dogs?
How's it going?
You're out of your
What? What? I'm just existing around and you have access to the transition document, and like we just hang out.
So tuition and you're off. Honestly, I think we have a lot of
and you also have the agendas and the
anyway, alright. So I got contact with person for it. It's like, hey, like what initiatives are you working on campus? Like working with
I
and
was doing some hanging out stuff and we're a PDF thing that's coming out and we'll be hanging out.
there are some power acts. So I'm just saying like
Kind of.
I don't really know.
It's just good for you.
I'm looking at like
I read that and some things. I didn't go to it. I was going to go to it.
And he was talking about that'd be cool.
I'm in the student services.
So I don't know if
This is a surprise.
I mean,
We got it.
no, yeah, that's exactly it. I'm just waiting on responses from them to see what we can do.
Not great debates. Yeah. I'm excited.
It wasn't
I know you're running around and all like,
I don't want to be part of
it was on my desk when I got back. Come on, guys.
And then he said, Caucus Leader. And then said, okay. And that was the conversation. You either did like a
Yeah, because I don't think we can but I think you're it was already everyone's watching
It's my
I definitely noticed. I would have guessed. I'm good, how are you?
All right, everybody. We're a few minutes past our 7:56 stop time, so if everyone wants to find their seats, we will go ahead and move. Actually, Juan is going to announce our caucus leaders for us.
All right, everyone. For your second reveal of the night, this one even more exciting than the first. For the College of Ag, we have Caleb Stout as the new caucus leader. Congratulations. For Arts and Sciences, we have Ariana O'Donoghue. Congratulations. For Business, Haley McPhee. Congratulations. Education, yours truly, Drew Bellamy. Yeah. And for Health and Human Sciences, we have the SGA Member of the Week himself, Jonathan Owery. Congratulations. And engineering, we have Tommy Compton. Congrats, Tommy.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for putting up with that, everybody. And with that, we are in final action. So is there a motion to consider Bill 2? Senator Solomon.
Move to consider Bill 2.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Bill 2. If the author will please come forward.
Say,
Have any changes been made?
not to this.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, take it away, Jacob. So actually, this is our first final action, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, let me give a little bit of explanation for this one. So for our new senators, what final action means and how final action works is that we will be voting on this legislation today. We introduced it last week, got to ask questions, got to see the bill for the first time. So this week we have final action, which means that we will go back and forth on debate. So Jacob, as the author, has first rights to debate. So if you ever write a piece of legislation, you get to come up here and argue in favor of it before anyone else has the right to do that. After Jacob gives positive debate, presumably, we will move on and someone will give negative debate and we will just go back and forth in that pattern, asking for speeches in the positive and negative. It is possible to have 2 speeches on the same side, or 3 speeches, or 4 speeches, or 5 speeches on the same side in a row. We try to discourage that, so I would encourage you to get up and give debate on the other side if you feel one opinion or the other. But it's totally cool to get a bunch of speeches on the same side of the same bill. Senator Kidd, did you have a question?
Yeah, so how does the question asking process work with final action and debate and everything?
Excellent question, Senator Kidd. So we do not have a formal question asking process after a senator has given debate. You can call for a point of information, which means that you are asking the chair to provide a little bit of information about something. So you can call for a point of information, and I can answer that question for you, or I can defer to the author to answer that question for you. But there is not a set window after debate is given to ask and answer questions. So we just move on to the very next speaker. Or a question of privilege as well. Either way, those are 2 ways to seek information about something. But yeah, so Jacob is gonna ask him if any changes had been made. If the committee that it was referred to had made any changes, he would read out those changes to us. But this week, no changes were made to Bill 2. So since no changes were made, he can. I'm just gonna go ahead and let him start to give his up to 4-minute speech. Time limit is 4 minutes on speeches on either side. So take it away, Jacob, whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. So what used to be the Travel Allocations Committee was responsible for allocating the Sports Club Fund, which is $65,470, which is a student services line item fee. So we opened that form on February 1st, closed on the 25th. The committee met on the 27th, spent about 8 hours in a room together listening to all the presentations from these 15 groups to hear what they wanted funds for the next year. We all sat down the next week and we deliberated and gave them out and allocated this amount of money. This is the final numbers we came to. Obviously, we have been charged to allocate this money. It was done correctly and properly, so we should do so now.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. Senator Kidd, anything? No? Awesome.
Take it back. Sorry, we're good.
Thank you. Senator McFarland?
I have an amendment.
Okay, Senator McFarland has an amendment. So Bryce, if you want to pull that up on the screen and make sure you screen share it with the Zoom for me. So Adrian, if you want to come up and explain your amendment.
Hello, I'm Adrian Mcfarlane, and for those who have not met me yet, I'm a senator for the College of Arts and Sciences. My amendment is for the college rodeo team slash club and club baseball. For the college rodeo team, $1,500, and for club baseball, $2,000.
Where's that money coming from, Adrian?
It is coming from the Sports Allocations Club?
The
Reserve account, correct.
Senator Kidd? Question of privilege?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't, well, in the legislation presented, wouldn't we also need to amend? Never mind. I answered my question. Sorry, we're good. Sorry, thank you.
Senator Navarro?
Point of information, why was this not already considered in the legislation that we already had?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the two clubs that are up on the screen, Club Rodeo and Club Baseball, didn't get the application for sports club funding turned in by the 4 p.m. deadline of the Friday, the last Friday in February, Jacob? The 25th? Jacob Long?
Yes.
What was the due date? February 25th?
Correct.
February 25th at 4 p.m. was the due date. Those two clubs did not get their applications fully submitted before that due date. So because of the way our governing documents are written, we did not consider those applications. And these organizations would still like to get money, so they are attempting to amend the legislation to give themselves money out of the reserve account. That is the situation that arose. Senator Kidd, you have a question of privilege?
I do. So during, never mind, I'm sorry. I need to be better composed. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
Senator Bellamy, question of privilege?
Indeed. How much money is in the sports club reserve account as of right now?
Jacob, I'm going to refer to you.
$23,000.
$23-ish thousand. Senator Kidd, question of privilege?
Were there discussions in the allocations meetings about pulling other money from the reserve account for the groups to fully fund what they were originally requesting?
Jacob, can you speak to that a little bit?
There was discussion, it was decided against.
Okay, it was discussed to pull money out of the reserve account, but the committee had decided against that in the meeting. Jacob?
I forgot my name card. We would need to update the total recommended amount, right?
Yeah. So the line item at the bottom of the recommended column should read 68,970.
I apologize, the requested, since they
Oh,
have
the requested.
$9,500,
Apologies.
we should raise that.
So that should be, I'm going to do some math in my head. 196,444.
Yeah.
Awesome. We will make sure that that gets reflected. Bryce, can you just type that real quick? Okay, thanks for that catch. Okay, that being said, is there a motion to consider this amendment? Senator Navarro?
Actually, I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna ask why the Jacob Long, why did you guys not allow this? Or I guess, why did you guys vote against it?
That's gonna get debate real fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is an excellent point to bring up, though. When asking questions, we try to avoid debate-like questions or questions that could prompt a debate-like answer. because we want to save debate for the actual floor to like keep it as civilized as possible. But yeah, so if you're a new senator, try to avoid asking like probing debate-like questions or leading questions or questions that you already know the answer to, or things that we all generally try to avoid. Senator Hoffman?
The total should be 195, not 196.
It was 185,944, and you carry the 1, so it's 196.
190. 9,500. 185.
185,944 plus 9,500?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
There you go. 195. No, none of that. Alrighty, so if there are no more questions of privilege or points of information, is there a motion to consider the amendment? Senator Bellamy.
I move to consider this amendment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to consider the amendment, so we are now in debate on the amendment, not on Bill 2. Senator McFarland, as the author, you have first rights to debate on the amendment.
Okay. I encourage your support for the amendment to funding the Kansas State Rodeo Team. The rodeo team is the only one besides Oklahoma State University not sponsored by their school's athletic department. This puts a huge hinge in recruiting new competitors for our rodeo team. Without this funding, which is to begin with less than what we have received in the past, will make it harder to give scholarships and fund the KSU rodeo along with the hosting Kansas High School Rodeo, which brings new and multiple possible K-Staters. If any of you attend the 2021 KSU Rodeo, you saw firsthand the love and support for the rodeo team. We brought in 10,000 to 12,000 rodeo fans gathered and packed in Weber Arena for the 75th anniversary of the Rodeo Club. 400 to 600 competed in this rodeo, and I personally know a handful of the rodeo competitors from this rodeo transferring to KSU to compete in rodeo. We need this allocation to meet their expectations of KSU and our rodeo team. And I yield back.
Thank you for that debate. Senator McFarland, is there any debate in the negative? Chair Talbert.
I've actually never given debates. This is the first time, so do not attack me. My issue with this amendment is that basically, if we support this amendment, we're saying to every single club on campus that if you do not submit your application at the deadline, then you can basically come whenever you want and ask for money, because we'll be setting a precedent that allows clubs to just come whenever. No one is saying that the clubs that are asking for money aren't great clubs that maybe need the money. But the issue is that if we allow these clubs to set this precedent, then what's saying that midway through the year, another club's like, well, we blew through all of our money. We need more money. Let's go to the reserves. Reserves are set to be for like crazy circumstances and stuff like that, not just because a club didn't turn in their application on time. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Chair Talbert, for that debate. Max Harman, is someone going to defer their speaking rights to you? Senator Pelton.
I defer my speaking rights to Max.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you I haven't gotten the pleasure to meet, my name is Max. I served in this body last year as chair of the Student Services Fee Committee. I helped Adrian and the Rodeo Club and the baseball club team draft up this amendment. So prior, I know some of you saw in exec, the prior version of this was to take money away from the rest of the teams allocated on the sports club. Obviously, I don't think anybody was in favor of that. I also was super not in favor of that. But I know just from, especially from doing insufficient funds and really doing a deep dive on the entire budget, I got to be a little bit more personally involved and interested in the various reserve accounts. And so to me, it seemed like a very easy solution. So that's why I proposed this to add those asterisks and take this out of the reserve account. And so some important context that I think is important to know. I'll get to the point about like the precedent this sets because I think that's very relevant. Context just for sports club reserve. Sports club money is allocated out to all of the teams at the beginning of the year, just like we're doing now. And then if that money isn't spent Amy, whoops, so sorry. The CSI accountant recalls any of those unused funds at the end of the year. So every year there's a closing out of those accounts, and so every year money that isn't spent that we allocate tonight rolls back into the sports club's reserve account. And so every year there's a moderate, it varies. One year it was 10,000, other years it's been less, but it is so much that each year for the past 3 years on this line item, which is a student services fee line item, we actually fund out of that total 68,000, which is actually a little bit less than the normal amount the committee is funding. 16,000 of that has been funded out of reserves every year for the past 3 years. Super interesting. And so the number I have, and that just happened. So the number Chair Long gave about the amount in the reserve account right now, the 23-ish.
22,817.
22,817. That is already accounting for 16,000 of this money coming out of reserves. Super cool. So this student fee services line item is up for review next year. So the committee will have the choice on whether or not to continue that practice. So don't feel like we're in any danger of draining the reserves. This is a pretty modest amount, just 3,500, and we're done drawing on that unless the fee committee should decide to continue to do that next year. So that's some important pieces of context. Other pieces of context, some of this money will be flowing back into the reserve account. And then finally, there's no other mechanism that draws money out of that account. That's why we found it as an excellent place to pull from when we were doing insufficient funds cuts. Super secret fun pool of money that we don't usually use too much. But what is the point of reserves if not for really weird out of the blue circumstances? And so that brings me to the point of precedent. Normally, I would 100% be on board with not setting precedents we don't want to see going into the future. This is not, I'll explain a couple of reasons why I think this is not a scenario like that. Getting to talk with the members of the teams who are actually here tonight, which I love, and that's one of the reasons I'm in favor of this. Yeah, give me a hand. That's one of the reasons I'm in favor of this. I don't think this sets a particularly poor precedent unless that precedent is having student clubs get involved with student government. And I love that. And so they are to be commended. Absolutely, mistakes were made, and this is not an ideal process. I would not want to do this every single year. But reserves are there for the weird circumstances. And weird circumstances, I think, tally up to a couple or three things. We moved the process up 2 weeks this year. So I know any of these individual things seem really small, and I absolutely agree. But taken as individually, I don't think any of them are significant enough to try and overturn the committee's decision or to try and make special circumstances, but taken together in the fact that I don't think these circumstances will happen again and the very low risk of taking this money out of reserves, I think validates and encourages us to make this exception and honor the work that those students have put in to come to us and to try and come to this compromise, which is indeed a compromise. You'll notice they took cuts in, I was talking to baseball earlier, and they had originally, I think, been planning on requesting more than that $2,000. I know rodeo has taken significant cuts on their request. So moving up the timeline is one circumstance. Another circumstance is, I know certainly for rodeo's sake, they got through the form, and we've had that a couple of times. If I need to be called time on, absolutely, please do. Perfect.
Senator Pitt, I move to extend the speaker's time by three minutes.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to extend the speaker's time by 3 minutes. Are there any objections?
Objection.
All right. So there was an objection on the motion to extend the speaker's time by 3 minutes. So we move straight into.
It was 3?
Yeah.
Sorry, I heard 10. My bad.
Do you withdraw your objection?
Yeah, withdraw.
Okay. The objection has been withdrawn. So unless there are any objections on the motion to extend the speaker's time by 3 minutes, Max, you have 3 more minutes. Thank you.
The nerve. I appreciate that. Yeah, 10 minutes would have been way too much, and I would have probably objected too. But I will promise not to try and make you all do that again. Those other circumstances, moving up the timeline, as well as rodeo, and gotten to talk, and they filled out a doodle poll, which was, at least told to me, significantly through the form. And I wish I remembered the details. We had a circumstance like this, either on ACT or otherwise, of the new Org Central form. That's the other thing. We ported over to a new platform, and so those surveys were kind of messed up a little bit. And I distinctly remember seeing screenshots of a page on the form saying, "Thank you for submitting your form," but the submission button was still on that last page. And I know that led to some confusion. And so absolutely, there are valid critiques to all of those circumstances. Yes, the other clubs managed to figure it out. Yes, all of those are relatively insignificant. But based on the money flowing back in here, I don't think this serves a bad precedent. This is exactly what reserves are for. We're not hurting anybody else, which is why I was very particular about taking this from reserves. And it's up for review next year from student services fee. I hope that should clarify everything, and I think hopefully that makes it a more easy decision. I know there will likely be a little bit more debate, but I urge you all to pass this, and I commend the students for working with us. They truly have gone out of their way and put a lot of work into this compromise.
Thanks for that debate, Max. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Chair Long.
All right, I'm going to start off the same way Max ended. This is how it's supposed to work, and this is great. So, okay, a couple things before I forget about them. We were talking about Org Central issues. The issue with the screen where we see, oh, your thing's been submitted, that old Org Central does not apply to this platform at all. Secondly, we're talking about being able to go all the way through the platform to the doodle poll. You can move around the form like that. That it does not insinuate they went all the way through. Small things. When you are considering the amendment tonight, I encourage you all to remove personal biases from it and think, if I did not know who these clubs were, would I do the same? This should not be voted on based on who the clubs are. We should be based on what our rules say and if any club in this circumstance wouldn't deserve it. We have to be good stewards of our money. It's not fun saying no, and it's exceedingly hard to hear the passions and struggles of groups and, have to say no to it. I'm sympathetic to that, and it's really hard as well. Like Max said, we've been spending $16,000 out of reserves for several years now. The numbers go 53-ish thousand, 33-ish thousand, now down to 22-ish thousand, and we might do it next year, we don't know. I understand $3,500 isn't a lot out of that, but I argue that it does set a precedent. And part of the argument there is, in exec, it was brought up, so the process wasn't moved up 2 weeks. What happened is last year, the chair of the committee made an extension of the deadline, which moved the deadline 2 weeks. That set a precedent that some clubs thought the deadline was going to be weeks later. So obviously precedents can't harm us here. I'm going to agree with previous speakers that if we say you can just amend yourself and your name onto an allocation if you want money later, if you didn't go through the process, A, this is a precedent that you can come to us anytime for money, and B, that says to the other people who did follow the rules, that those rules really don't matter. We will create exemptions around rules if we feel like we value enough. I understand the debate against arbitrary rules, deadlines, and limits. We can have that, but as of right now, we have those rules and we have to abide by them if our word as SGA is to mean anything. There's been a lot of discussion about grace recently in our organization, providing grace to those who might not know our rules as well or our processes. And I agree with this, but here's what I think of the matter. The extension of grace cannot be made when it will make further detriment. If we extend grace now, we cause more harm in the future. I understand the desire to say it's not that much, but fiscal responsibility is prudent at this time.
Awesome. Thanks for that debate, Jacob. Is there any debate in the positive? Matthew Melcher.
I do think it would not be right if I didn't say howdy, dressed like this, and representing the rodeo team. So howdy. I am not a student government person, so I'm here to just tell you a little bit about the rodeo team and kind of the situation that we're in. First, I'd like to thank Speaker Porter, all the senators. I'd like to thank the judicial branch and executive branch for just this process and allowing this to happen. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you about, excuse me, sports club funding and why I believe it should be amended for the K-State rodeo team to receive $1,500. This reallocated money will be used towards travel reimbursement for student athletes, as has been done in the past. Previously, we have received $5,000 and $5,700 respectively from student government. These athletes are required to pay out of pocket all of their entry fees, horse feed, trucks and trailers, along with their expenses, collegiate rodeo's governing body, NYRA, their fees, club fees, stall fees, travel, including hotels and fuel, and I'm sure I'm missing tons more. The main issue for us is that we are one of only 2 schools out of 16, Oklahoma State being the other, in the Central Plains region that are not sponsored by their school's athletic department. This can cause challenges in scholarships, funding for hosting rodeos, and facility upgrades. Next year, I'll be attending Oklahoma State for graduate school, and their rodeo coaches have already approached me about completing the same process for them as I have here at Kansas State. To fund this, we depend on fundraising through community sponsors, parking for football games in the fall, a bull riding clinic in Weber Arena each January, roping and barrel racing jackpots, student government funds, and the annual K-State Rodeo. Our largest source of income, the rodeo that I just mentioned, is also the largest club-sponsored event on our campus. As mentioned earlier, each year, the weekend after Valentine's Day, 10 to 12,000 fans pack Weber Arena over the course of 3 days to cheer on the 400 to 600 cowboys and cowgirls competing for the fastest run or the best ride, and a chance to go to Casper, Wyoming to compete in the Collegiate National Finals Rodeo. We are the largest collegiate rodeo in the nation outside of the Collegiate National Finals Rodeo, and are one of only 3 rodeos in the country to be broadcasted nationwide on the Cowboy Channel. This past year, we had approximately 4,000 fans inside Weber Arena for the Saturday night performance alone. K-State Rodeo has produced national competitors in their own events. Tanner Bruner, a 2016 graduate and Ramona, Kansas native, if you have any idea where that is. It's like east of Newton. Competed at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo 3 years in a row from 2018 to 2020. This is literally every Cowboy Super Bowl. Another name on the national scene is Brooke Wallace, K-State's Miss Rodeo 2016, Miss Rodeo Kansas in 2019, and Miss Rodeo USA from 2020 to 2021. Currently on the team, Sage Dierks is 3rd in the saddle bronc riding, Haley Vollmer is 3rd in the breakaway roping, Carly Jones is in the top 15 in barrel racing, and Sammy O'Day is in the top 20 in breakaway roping. These are no small feats considering our region alone can have 100 plus entries in each event every weekend. The issue with our fundraising is that we did not get the form in on time according to Org Central. I am personally responsible for submitting that form and cannot tell you where I went wrong. I had scheduled a time to present to the committee, answered all the questions on the form, and completed our annual budget. Based on the previous funding we have had as a club and the success of our program in hosting a nationwide event on campus, I hope you all can take into consideration what I just shared with you and consider amending the sports club funding bill to help out the rodeo team. We have been here for 75 years and look forward to another 75. With that, I thank you, and I don't know if I stand for questions or really how this whole thing works, but.
Yeah, thanks for that debate. So seeing as that was debate in the positive, we are now seeking debate in the negative. Is there any debate in the negative? Senator Kidd?
I have a question of privilege.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the official practices and policies regarding the methods of communication to student organizations, can that be explained to the body?
Yeah, so Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong here, but as far as I'm aware, there is no officially delineated communications policy. So what Jacob and Amy did this year was relied pretty heavily on the email feature of listserv or of Org Central, which that email feature works almost exactly like any other email software does. Exactly like Outlook, you just pick the recipients, type out your message, and it sends it to their Outlook inbox. I know that they used, Jacob, the K-State Today as well, which goes out to every single student. Jacob did send 1 or 2 emails from his Gmail account as well, just as another a third option to make sure that we're reaching as wide an audience as possible. Jacob, did I miss anything there?
CSI update.
Oh yeah, the weekly CSI update that gets sent out, information regarding the funding deadlines was in that update as well, and that goes to officers of student organizations.
And then we hosted the workshops.
Yep, they hosted funding workshops as well, and those funding deadlines were discussed in the funding workshops hosted by Chair Long and former Chair Jambunathan. And Treasurer Tram Pham. Alrighty, is there any debate in the negative? Chair Pondillo.
All right, hi guys. So a couple of issues that I have with this amendment is that these are amounts selected by the organizations themselves. This wasn't through a committee that has been chaired by someone with experience, and also the committee members that have experience. These are numbers that are just pulled from personal belief, and if that were the choice of any single organization, I'm pretty sure that we would meet that 195 mark. And so with that being said, also, there are a few people that could have been here tonight to request more money if they found out that this was going on through reserves, which would leave a bad precedent for the future. And we're not exactly sure about money. Being part of student service fee, money is scarce and you have to cut sometimes in the future. So setting this precedence is very harmful to the future and to now. So I'd vote no.
Thanks for that debate, Joseph. We are now seeking speeches in the positive. Cole Carmody.
Okay, so let me just start off by saying I am a teacher, so if I talk with my hands a lot, that's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with. So first of all, thank you all for letting us do this process. I think student government is amazing. I was telling people before this, in another life, I'm probably sitting in your chair. With that being said, I am extremely involved with the K-State community. I student teach at Rock Creek High School right now. I coach baseball there. Along with being president of club baseball, I'm also like the coach, the player, everything else. We have 20 members. And along with that, I also write for GoPowerCat.com and cover K-State sports. So I say all that to say that my pride for K-State is extremely deep. And I care for every single student that walks through the halls and walks through the buildings of this university. With that being said, a little bit about us before I get into our situation. Like I mentioned, we have 20 members and people from all around the country, which I feel like makes K-State great. Everything about K-State revolves family, and I truly believe that what we have built is that. And so with us, we do lots of community work. We're currently working and umpiring and helping out the community. So I feel like, this is about an amendment, but I just want you all to know that if I truly didn't believe that what I was doing was worth it, I wouldn't be here. And so with regards to the amendment, I know there's been some talk about precedent. As far as the deadline goes, there was said that the deadline was extended last year by 2 weeks. That is, I guess, true. I was not aware that it was an extension. It makes sense. Considering the year before was COVID and everything was shut down. The year before that, I don't know if anybody on our team was there. And so my understanding was that was the deadline. And so in my mind, I mentioned I do a lot of things. We all do a lot of things. If you guys didn't do a lot of things, you wouldn't be sitting in this chair. In my mind, hey, that's when the deadline is. And so I take full responsibility for that. With that being said, unfortunately, on the day of the actual deadline, I received an email, and it was, I believe, the first personal email I had received, and it went straight to my junk mail, unfortunately. Sometimes when an email says this email originated outside of K-State, my email has done that in the past. I don't know if that's because I get a lot of emails, but that has happened in the past. And so unfortunately, that's what happened in our situation. I fully believe, had that not been the case, I would have been able to fill out the form on time and we wouldn't have to go through this. So along with Club Rodeo, I've gotten to know Matthew very well, and I feel like this amendment favors everything we've done. Extenuating circumstances was mentioned earlier, and I fully believe that this is an extenuating circumstance, and I can guarantee you that the next time this happens, there won't be a next time, because we will be more diligent. And I feel like that as someone who is involved in a lot of things, this is just something that I know feels right to me. And if it didn't feel right, I wouldn't be up here. So.
Thanks for that debate, Cole. Yeah, Senator Grills, question of privilege.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how many like notifications were sent out? Was it one email from Org Central, or who has that?
Yeah, Jacob, do you want to address that?
Total of 3 emails from Org Central, total of 3 K-States today, 1 CSA update, and 1 personal email.
Like, can you say that louder, please? I can't hear you.
So it was, 3 emails from Org Central, 3 K-State Today notifications, 1 email from the CSI update, and 1 email from Jacob's Gmail account that he sent. And like I mentioned earlier, they were mentioned at the funding workshops as well.
And to specify, one of those Org Central emails was an email about the funding workshop, but the email had the deadlines in it. So.
Okay, just to repeat what Jacob said, one of those emails from Org Central was an email notification about the funding workshop itself, but the email did have all of the funding deadlines listed in it as well. Senator Oury,
So, just out of curiosity.
do you have a question of privilege?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, if they were to get it in the application on time, how much money, like, give me a ballpark.
So that's a tricky question to answer, and we try to avoid those hypothetical questions as well. So that's not really something that we can answer. It would have just been up to the committee about what the allocation would have been. Senator McFarland.
I have a question on privilege. Why is the email being sent from his personal Gmail account and not a K-State email account?
So I don't really have an answer for that. Jacob can address that a little bit, but I know like not every single K-State student uses their Outlook Gmail account, or their Outlook account. I've talked to people that say they haven't opened it like the whole academic year. So it's just a matter of preference rather than like a requirement to use the Outlook account. But Jacob, if you want to address that since it's your account.
Sure, yeah, I guess we keep saying the term personal Gmail. It's the Gmail I've used for school and work for the last 6 years, and it's never had any problems before.
Yeah, just to repeat that answer, Jacob said that he's been using this email account for school and work purposes and business purposes for the last 6 years, and that he has never had problems with it before. So that kind of, does that answer your question, Adrian? Okay. If there are no more questions of privilege, we are now seeking debate in the negative. Senator Hoffman.
Put it on the suit for this one,
Hola, guys. I just think it's really great that you guys came out, preface that first. But I agree with all the previous speakers stating that it's hard to have a precedence like this set, even though I do agree that the money going to you guys would be very well spent. But I'm not here to harp on that. I just think it's important to mention that since I was on the student, sports club, thank you, that committee, it was important to state that I think on the day that we decided all of this, we all came to the same conclusion that we should not be considering any allocations that came in late. And I think it's important to have the club's opinion on this, and while we consider this, and that's all.
Thanks for that debate, Jacob. Seeing as that was debate in the negative, we are now seeking debate in the positive. Senator Bellamy.
Yeah, hi guys. So I think that denying a club the right to even be considered for funding is not fair or just by any means. If we're too concerned with like deadlines and bylaws and internal politics, then I think we've lost sight of our priorities. We are here to serve students first and foremost. If anyone truly believes that a blind refusal to consider club baseball and the rodeo team is serving students the best we can, then vote no. But there's no world where that helps anyone. We can disagree about the specific figures, what precedent it sets, but we owe them the right to be at least considered, I think. Precedence matters, and timeliness matters, but I don't think that matters more than giving people a fair shake. It's valuable to stick to the rules we've got, but I know it's more valuable to know and to bend them. Please vote yes on this amendment.
Thanks for that debate, Drew. We are now seeking debate in the negative. Chair Phillips.
All right.
Hello everyone. I'm Blake Phillips. I am the current Student Services Fee Committee Chair, and last year I had the opportunity to serve as Speaker of the Student Senate. I've been around the funding world for quite a bit of time now, so I'm just going to provide a little bit of insight that I might have on the situation and kind of some different things that have been mentioned tonight. So first, one point that one of the previous speakers in the negative brought up that I thought was really important was the fact that these numbers weren't allocated by a committee. You know, this didn't go through the exact same process as everyone else. Had the form been filled out and had the organizations been able to present to the Travel Allocations Committee, that would have been decided by the exact same group of people. But the fact that these numbers weren't decided upon the same way, in my opinion, doesn't really go great with the legislation as a whole. I feel like all those numbers and decisions should be made by the same people. As much as I commend and respect the groups for coming out here tonight and going through this process, just from a committee and strictly funding perspective, I feel like that's the best bet. But just a couple of points I wanted to mention. I know that we've heard the exact numbers from Jacob and Evan, or previous speakers, but there's been plenty of notification given, specifically through official Org Central relays, through the official K-State messaging, or like notification in the K-State Today. There have been tons of opportunities to know about when exactly these deadlines were. And I feel that that opportunity has been given, and not only has it been given, that was essentially the invitation to come and be a part of the process. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for some groups. And when we look specifically at the amount requested versus the amount that we have available, it's almost 3 times the amount requested, or actually, yeah, almost 3 times the amount requested than what we have available. If there were less demand for this money, I would have a lot less concern with doing this. But unfortunately, the matter of the fact is there's so much demand for this money, and there were a ton of other organizations that went through this process and had a lot of their funding denied just because we don't have enough to give. But finally, what I wanted to address was specifically taking this money out of reserve accounts. So my duty as the Student Services Fee Committee Chair deals with looking at the Student Services Fee budget as a whole. I'm going to give a quick, like 30-second overview of the Student Services Fee. I promise you this could take 30 minutes. Generally, this is a fee that we collect, and then it gets pooled up into a very big pot and allocated to various organizations across campus. Lafine, Union, and sports clubs are one of those. There's several others as well. When enrollment goes down, sometimes we have to do what's called our insufficient funds process, meaning we are essentially calling back money. And a lot of the times, specifically last year, we looked at getting some reserve accounts to kind of help pad that so that we weren't specifically affecting students. The sports club reserve account that we are pulling from is already low, and seeing how utilized this money is in the event that we had to do insufficient funds again next year, that reserve account is not at a place where I am super comfortable being able to take away some of the hit from other student organizations. When thinking about serving all students on campus, that is something that comes to the top of my mind because it affects services that are currently going on and affects the student experience there. And if we're able to lessen that impact as much as possible, I want to be able to do that, but by taking money and setting the precedent that we just take out money out of the reserve account whenever, it's, in my opinion, dangerous when it comes time to collect privilege fees or student services fees, and if we have insufficient collections of those. So that's specifically why I would recommend voting no today on this amendment. Again, thank you all very much for coming out and going through this process. Absolutely love the organizations. I've been a part of this committee before, and gosh, every single committee listed on the legislation could get all the money if they wanted. Thank you all.
Senator Grills.
Question of privilege.
Granted.
Is there a way, I guess this is kind of hypothetical, not really, it's not like that, is there a way that we could refer this to our brand new student allocations committee and have a group of people review these fundings so that they're used scrutiny, evaluation based on the numbers?
Yeah, so to answer your question, it is possible to refer a piece of legislation back to a committee, but that motion is not in order at this time until debate and voting on the amendment has closed.
Okay, so somebody can make that motion after the floor is closed.
If after debate on the amendment has elapsed and we have voted on it, then the motion to refer to any particular committee is in order.
So there's not a way to refer it to committee with the amendment.
When you vote yes, if you want.
The strategy there would be to fail the amendment, and then
Or we pass the amendment.
or pass the amendment. Either way,
And send it to the committee.
send it to that committee before we vote in final action.
Thank you.
Point of order. I defer speaking rights.
Max Harman.
You can refer a bill with an amendment attached, and it just goes to the committee. So technically, that's possible.
Yeah, that's correct. We just have to close voting on the amendment first.
No, you can refer it with the open amendment.
Is that Blake? I think so. I thought a motion to refer did not take precedence over a motion to amend.
Motion to amend is subsidiary, but I will get back to you.
Alrighty, Max is thinking. Senator Stout?
Question of privilege.
Granted.
Has it been an issue in the past where clubs haven't received funding?
I don't really know how to answer that because I don't know how you define issue, but there have been clubs in the past that haven't gotten their forms in, like their applications in by the deadline, and as far as I am aware, we have never amended an allocation as a result of an organization not meeting a funding deadline.
Follow up.
Granted?
And were those clubs that would, like, you normally would expect to fill out the form and would normally get funding?
It varies from year to year, but there have been organizations that have gotten funding and that haven't gotten funding, but as far as I know, there's never been an organization that has missed the funding deadline every single year, if that answers your question. Max Harman, does someone want to defer their speaking rights to Max? Max, go ahead.
Just following up for your answer. So sorry. Yeah, refer to committee is just one above amendment on the order of precedence. You can see that on the back here.
Okay, so to kind of explain what's going on there are a bunch of motions that you can make on the floor of Senate, and they all have different precedences, which means the order in which we prioritize consideration of the amendment. So the confusion there was I thought that the motion to refer or commit to a committee or decommit was a lower precedent than the motion to amend, but since the motion to refer is a higher precedence, if that motion is made, we will move directly into debate on the motion to refer rather than debate on the amendment. So the motion to refer is in order at this time, just as a clarification.
Max?
What's up? You shaking your head?
Sorry.
Okay, sorry, okay. So seeing as we just had debate in the negative, is there any debate in the positive? Senator DePaz.
What's poppin'? Yeah, so I honestly am just like, I'm surprised that they actually showed up and actually came in to give their case. And sometimes, yeah, like I want to reiterate what you said was like, we are for the students. Sometimes I know we make mistakes sometimes, and we want to give grace to them and just to really understand that we all struggle and we all forget sometimes, and it's okay. We want to make sure that it's okay to make mistakes, but we also got to make sure that there are rules and that we must follow them. But sometimes it's up to us to really decide, like, hey, I think we can give them some grace. And because I don't know if you guys seen last year, the rodeo, I didn't know what was going on. And then when somebody told me the rodeo, I was like, that's the rodeo? This is how many people come? That's how big that event is. And for us to like take money away from them or to just not give them the funds that they need, just imagine how many students will not be able to attend K-State because they never knew that they can hold such great events, that it can attract so many new people, so many new students. And for me, I'm like, not a lot of people at K-State. You know, I like K-State. It's great. And then rodeo too is fun. And baseball too. You know, I'm just kind of ranting. But basically, if we're not giving them the money that they need or just asking just because they missed the deadline, then like, why? Like, it's just a deadline. For me, it's just a deadline. Yeah, basically.
Okay, thank you for that debate, Alex. We are now seeking debate in the negative. Chair Thomas.
Hey guys, so I'm gonna try to avoid saying a lot of things that have already been said because debate gets really circular really fast. if you guys didn't know, I was the vice chair of travel allocations, and so I was also the vice chair of sports club. If you'll notice, every person who was on the committee and the current chair of the student services fee, everyone who has access to this money and has been given power to make these decisions is very against this amendment. And that's for a couple of reasons. One of those is that the committee didn't make a mistake. Like, if you have questions about the process, like, absolutely shoot me an email or a text, and I can explain to anybody what exactly happened here. But what happened is two of the clubs, well, the two clubs that are here missed the deadline. There were also at least 20 other clubs that were late. All of these clubs, if they were in here with the same stories, it would be a really packed room. But we would also be having a much bigger issue. I have nothing against the rodeo club. I have nothing against club baseball. The issue is that we can't permit funding if they miss the deadline because 20 other clubs missed the deadline. Like, the reserve account, it might seem like a really small number that people are requesting, but if every other club was in here, that money would be gone really fast. Also, on the point of reserves, it's for emergencies, which is why the treasurer of the person who handles the finances for SGA is super against this, because neither of these situations constitute an emergency, in my opinion. The reserves for sports clubs specifically are also used for nationals. If any of the sports clubs make it to nationals, they can go back and request money from sports clubs' reserves. So this is specifically harming sports clubs if they were to make it to nationals. And like, we absolutely believe in funding both of these clubs if they had applied on time. That's the only issue here. There's always going to be circumstances. We just feel like these circumstances specifically don't constitute an emergency, which is why we can't pull from reserves. There's plenty of advertisements, org central notifications, emails, funding workshops. Like, the issue of the one personal email, like, wasn't even a required email. So if we said that there was just no email, the point of advertisement still stands. Like, the reserves are to be used for emergencies. They're also to be used for nationals. They're not to be used for the 2 clubs that are here or the other 20 clubs that didn't apply by the deadline. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for that debate, Kate. Is there any debate in the positive? Matthew Melcher.
I'll just say on my way up, I don't like debate. That's not my thing. I'm just here. Okay, I'm just here to talk about this. One thing I wanted to clarify, a lot of people have been wondering kind of how we came up with that number because it did not go through a committee. That $1,500 that we had decided on. So originally we requested $7,500. A lot of what we had heard in the Senate Exec Committee was that they wanted to make sure other clubs had their dues paid for their governing bodies and their travel costs. And if you were to cover that for the rodeo team, our request would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of $40,000 to $45,000. So that gives you a very good idea of how much these kids spend on travel to compete for our university. But that $1,500, it would cover one person's travel of a team of 30 members, and then we have another 10 club members for 4 of the 10 rodeos, or it would cover about half of their governing body fees. So with those 30 students, they have to pay a $75 fee to NYRA each year to compete. It's $2,250, so it would cover just over 50% of that. Just have been kind of asked about where that number came from, so I just kind of wanted to clarify that. Again, thank you guys so much for this, and for considering this.
Yeah, thanks for that debate, Matthew. Is there any debate in the negative? Chair Saya.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Evan. I think we're really fortunate in this debate to know 2 things for sure. First, that rodeo and baseball, as in a vacuum as they can be, are 100% deserving of using student dollars to help their organizations. The second fact we know is that they were definitely late in turning in their application. Those deadlines were advertised, and there's no real reason why those applications shouldn't have been received earlier. The question that we're trying to answer in this debate is not whether rodeo or baseball are good enough to receive our money. I think we can all agree that they absolutely are. The question that we're trying to answer is very simple: whether they, as an organization, are more deserving of drawing from the reserve account than any of the other sports clubs that did not receive their full funding because of the decisions that the committee made. Now, there were 15 other organizations that applied for money from the sports club's fund. Only one was funded entirely of their request in full. That means that all of those organizations also had a case to make about how they could use our dollars to benefit students. And still, the committee had to come to very hard decisions about what was an appropriate use of the money. We have to be able to justify why an organization that absolutely turned in its application late should get our dollars more than any of those organizations that also can prove how beneficial they are to students, but at the same time followed all of our procedures correctly. If you still think that we ought to give money to the rodeo and to the baseball team despite their practices, that's completely fine. I'm just asking that you justify to yourself why we shouldn't be better spending that reserve money towards all of the sports clubs that weren't able to be funded completely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for that debate, Nick.
Question privilege.
President Vogelmore.
That was a great point. I just asked, were the other clubs notified of this at all? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Jacob, do you want to explain the process you went through with that?
The level of notification of this meeting here?
Yeah, so like the other clubs that had the opportunity to maybe do this and could take advantage of this,
The other clubs
were they
were
notified and why are they not here?
The other clubs were notified that this was occurring, the amendment was happening. They were, I guess, we didn't encourage them to come add on to the amendment, if that's what you're asking.
I was just curious. If they knew about this, then they could have been here to.
Several of them were until the amendment was changed.
Thank you.
Senator Bellamy.
Yeah, I'd like to move to previous question, please.
Second. Objection.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to call to the previous question. So for those of you that don't know what that means, our new senators, the previous question is when you want to force a vote on the pending question immediately. It depends on the legislative body, but our bylaws establish that the previous question is not in order until there have been 5 opportunities for speeches in the positive and the negative. So when you hear me calling for speeches, once I've called for positive 5 times and negative 5 times, the previous question is in order. Just for a little bit of information, we have had 7 speeches in the positive and 7 speeches in the negative. So it's been in order for 2 rounds of speeches now. In order to adopt the previous question, we take a hand vote, and we require a 2/3 majority to move to the previous question. So if we don't reach that 2/3 threshold, debate will continue until either debate is exhausted or until someone calls for the question again. So that being said, if you are in favor of moving to the previous question at this time, please raise your placards. Proxies, raise 2. Okay, awesome. Please lower your hands and placards. If you are against moving to the previous question, please raise 2. Or 1, or proxies raise 2. Those on Zoom. Okay. I don't think we reached a 2/3 threshold there. So we're going to continue with debate. Cole Carmody. In the positive. Yep, sorry. Clarifying, debate in the positive. And just as another clarification for our guests and for anyone that hasn't debated before, you get 2 opportunities to speak.
And I just want to clarify as well from our perspective as far as the funding goes. There were some questions on the $2,000 that we had requested. Last year, we were allocated $4,000 for our club. We also applied for travel funding in the fall. That is something that I was made aware of in the fall. At first, I don't believe I was aware that it was for sports clubs as well. made aware of that. We applied. We had looked into going to a national tournament in Florida. Unfortunately, I guess with the requirements, you had to qualify for said tournament. Since it was just an invitational tournament, we were denied all of our funding for the travel allocations process. We will have an opportunity, for a regional tournament, but unfortunately, we do not know if we qualify until a week before. And so I know the timeline is iffy on that as well. So we have tried to go through this process before. We were not necessarily counting on that money from the travel funding allocations. We did go through that process, and so I know that we have gone through student government before, and so I'm not new to this. So I just want to point that out there as well to say that we were allocated the $4,000 originally, and then we had requested the $2,000 because when we went through the bill, we felt like, okay, if we're making some sacrifices here, wanting to try and get something, and so that is where that money comes from on that aspect.
Thanks for that debate, Cole. We are now seeking debate in the negative. Andrew Booz.
Yeah, hello everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Andrew Booz, and I spent 3 years as a student senator in Student Governing Association. 2 of those years, I was the Senate Operations Chair. And so as you might imagine, I have a special relationship with laws and rules and regulations. And the other thing is I'm speaking because I'm the president of Mobile Development Club. That's why I'm independent speaking. And so that club in particular, doesn't travel and so doesn't go through as much of the application process. But that's also where I have some experience with SGA and funding regulations. So I, in particular, wanted to kind of refocus the debate on something a previous speaker said about kind of applying that it was unfair that we aren't, considering this as a body on their own merits, and that it's important for us to be fair and to give them a fair shot. And I definitely think it is important to give you a fair shot, but I don't think, I think it would almost be the opposite way around. I think that it is, there is a perfectly relevant reason for the deadline, and to have a higher restriction or even a maximal restriction on granting funds outside of a deadline is perfectly fair, because there are a bunch of people who met the deadline and got less funding or got their own funding and got the ability to be checked out by the travel allocations team. And if the club's here tonight, and thank you for being here, I really appreciate it. It was great to hear it from you specifically. However, if you had made the deadline, you would have been considered like everyone else, and that is fairness to me in a sense. It's not being able to get money from reserves after the fact. And so I think if that is absolutely a good thing to do in your mind, then that is a reason to vote yes. But I do think that in addition to the particular case, it also does, to go back to previous speakers, construct a precedent about deadlines and about the value we put on them. Because if we're making it known that this deadline doesn't matter at all, which the deadlines should be established for a reason, and if it doesn't matter, we should change them. But I have a feeling this deadline does matter. And if we are passing this legislation, it feels to me like we're saying that deadlines doesn't matter, you can always get more funding later. And that's not a good precedent to set. For me, precedents are often like dams holding water. You can punch some holes in them and you'll be okay. But if you punch holes below the water line, they don't work. And they can cause a lot of problems. And so I think that rules and laws and precedent all work the same way in that analogy, that it's valuable to keep them and to have very few exceptions, if any. Obviously, if this deadline isn't good for next year, we should change it. But I think in this case, if the question is whether we uphold the deadline we set fairly and whether we uphold a restriction that we advertised thoroughly and correctly, then I think that we should uphold that. So I urge you to vote no, although it's not my decision in the end. Thank you.
Thanks for that debate, Andrew. Chair Long.
Call for his question. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to again call the previous question. So, like I said earlier, if you are in favor of moving straight into a vote on the amendment, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2.
Yeah, can we divide the chamber?
Yeah, so it has been called for a division of the chamber, which means that I have to count everyone's hands. So everyone that is in favor of moving to the question, leave your hands up. I have to count them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, I have 24 in favor and 2 on Zoom, so 26 in favor. Please lower your placards. All those against, please raise your placards now. 1, 2, 3, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. So we have more than 2/3 in favor of moving to the previous question, so we will move straight into a roll call vote on the amendment.
Okay. First time.
Yeah, so do you want to go ahead and explain to us how a roll call vote works and which kinds of votes you can cast on a roll call vote?
Absolutely. Okay, so on a roll call vote, I will basically read out names like we do for attendance, and you can vote one of 4 ways initially. You can vote yes, no, abstain, or pass. If you pass on a roll call vote, that just basically means I'm going to skip your name, I'm going to read off everyone else's, and then after I finish reading off everyone else's names, I'll come back to you. And then at that point, you can either vote yes, no, or abstain.
Just kidding. This is a hand vote. That was my bad.
So that's theoretically what would happen if we had a roll call vote.
So good to know, because we will potentially be having a roll call vote later in the evening. So my bad. This is a hand vote. So it takes half the chamber to adopt an amendment. So if you are in favor of adopting the amendment, please raise your placard now. Proxies raised 2. Sorry, we're doing a division anyway, just for safe. Okay, please lower your placards, and if you are against adopting the amendment, please raise your placards now. Okay, so on a roughly vote of 23 to 18, that amendment passes. We are adopting the amendment. Chair Phillips?
Roll call vote.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded for a roll call vote.
Point of order.
Yeah, Max.
So the motion to make it a roll call vote has to be called before a vote is taken, and you can't call division because it was taken with a visible means and you have counted vote totals.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Max. Chair Pondillo?
Point of information, did we get the votes on Zoom as well?
Yeah, there was 1 for, 2 against.
Yeah, that would not have changed the outcome, but thank you for that clarification as well. Yeah, so the amendment was adopted, so we will move forward debating on Bill 2 as amended. So the new text of the bill will read like it is listed up on the screen, and if you want to give me like 60 seconds, I will edit it and throw the amended version up onto the screen. Okay, sorry about that brief intermission. Senator Lynn, do you have a...
I have a question. If this were to, so we adopt the amendment, say that this fails when we vote, does that mean that none of the clubs get money?
That is an excellent question, and I'm going to go ahead and say the answer is yes. I don't think we've ever encountered a scenario where that has happened, so there's not a lot of precedent. Blake, do you...
What was the question, sorry?
If the bill fails, is no money allocated?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's that. There is a parliamentary procedure wherein if the bill is still in possession of the legislative branch, it can be moved to be reconsidered. So if the bill, for whatever reason, fails, we can move to reconsider it. We can amend it again if there's a problem that made it fail. We can amend out that problem. But I would, no, I'm not going to say anything. That is how that would work. Senator Hoffman, you had your placard up.
Can I move to postpone this bill for a week?
Okay, it has been moved to postpone this bill for a week. Is there a second?
Objection.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded and objected to postpone this bill for a week. So basically what that would mean is that we would stop debate right now, take it out of final action, and not debate it in final action until next week as well. So that is a debatable motion, and it does require it does require a majority vote to postpone a piece of legislation. So being the maker of the motion, Senator Hoffman, you have first rights to debate on the motion to postpone for 1 week.
All right, hello. This is a fun Senate. All right, I think this is pretty cool. But I personally am not in favor of the amendment, as you know, I came up here and stated. So I do not want to tank everybody else's chances of getting money by voting no on this bill because it contains an amendment that I personally do not like. So I think a week to move it to reconsider, because I think this does change a lot of the bill's potential impact in SGA. And I think just a week is very helpful in regaining thoughts for us. So,
yeah, thanks for that debate, Senator Hoffman. Senator Kidd?
Question of privilege.
Granted.
So moving to postpone this for a week, that means that this document cannot change, correct? Or it can still change?
So if we move to postpone this for a week, action on the bill has been postponed for 1 week, so we couldn't take any further action on it if we do choose to postpone it. If we don't postpone it, it is still amendable, and we will still debate on it and vote on it in final action. If it fails, the other thing that you could do is vote to refer it to a committee, and changes could be made in that committee as well. But if we do postpone it for 1 week, no changes can be made until it's brought back up for reconsideration in 1 week.
Thank you.
Senator Grills?
Debate in the negative.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey guys, how we doing? Okay, excited crowd out here tonight. Woo, let's go. Okay, some energy. My sugar is crashing right now. Too many Sour Patch Kids. Talking negatively on postponing this bill, I really don't think that would add any value to this conversation. I understand thinking it over more. I think we have all the facts right now in front of us. We can't make any changes until it's brought back into final action next week anyway if we postpone that bill. And so I think we've had plenty of conversation on this topic. I love seeing everyone so engaged, so opinionated, and everyone's torn in different directions, which is really awesome to see. But I think we have all the information in front of us. I think we have all the people with the facts right here engaged, regular students, club presidents. This wouldn't provide any additional value, in my opinion, by moving it by a week. It would certainly be a waste of all of our time. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Senator Grills, for that debate in the negative. We are now seeking debate in the positive. Senator Lynn?
I move to refer this back to Senate Executive Committee.
Second.
So since debate on a motion is pending, we can't entertain any other motions at this time because the motion to refer to a committee, oh, it does take precedence. My bad. So We are now going to move into debate on the motion to refer to a committee. That is it's a debatable motion, and it requires a majority. Peyton, as the maker of the motion, you have first rights to debate.
Question of privilege. Wait, so you're referring it to? Say that.
Just for anyone that is confused about what just happened, the motion on the floor now is to refer the legislation to the Senate Executive Committee, which is the committee that it came out of this week. The motion to refer takes precedence over the motion to postpone, so we have to suspend debate on the motion to postpone until we resolve the now pending superseding motion. So Peyton, take it away on your speech. Oh my gosh, sorry, your debate in favor of referring it to the Senate Executive Committee.
Okay. I would agree with previous speakers saying that it would make no difference if we postpone this for just another week without sending it back to some sort of committee. Postponing it for another week, we're going to come back here and we're going to have this exact same sort of like roundabout debate, and I don't think we're really going to get anywhere. Sending it back to committee, we can work in a small group and try to work this out a little bit more effectively in that small group with maybe better discussion methods going on. The reason that I say Senate Executive Committee is because since it is a new term, we cannot put back together the sports club committee, and the Senate Executive Committee is the group that that the amendment was debated on over this past week. So I think it is most pertinent to that group of people because they're the only ones that have like precedence to be talking about it at this point in time, since we don't have a sports club committee, at least not the same one right now. So yeah.
Thank you for that debate in the positive, Senator Lynn. Senator Scheer.
Debate in the negative?
Yeah.
Question of privilege.
If there's a speaker being recognized, that is not in order.
Can I chill and let her ask her question?
Sure. Nice. Senator Grills.
Thanks. Okay, so previous speaker just referred it to Senate Exec. Is there a way for us to, like, if we wanted to refer it to a different committee, is that a possibility, or is that too much?
You can refer it to multiple committees, but what happens in that situation is if those two committees make different changes, we will then have we would have Bill 2A and Bill 2B brought to the floor. We don't really have a formal reconciliation process for those two bills, so we would debate on and vote on those two bills separately. So there could be a universe in which we have two separate allocations bills passed, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I don't know how to handle that situation, so thank you. Senator Oury, question of privilege?
If we do, yeah, question of privilege.
Granted.
If we do put it back into the committee, is there club money back on the chopping block?
No, it would go back to the committee as amended. We have adopted the amendment, so this is just what the bill looks like now.
But, so this just means we could modify money and like requests as we go?
Yes, sending it back to the committee would allow the committee to make amendments on it as well, but amendments are still in order on the floor right now as well.
There could be amendments on it
Unless we
Okay, seeing as we just had debate in the negative, is there any debate in the positive? Senator Kidd?
Question of privilege, I'm sorry.
Sorry, my bad.
Question of privilege. The timeline of postponing this legislation, does that impact any of these sports groups?
So we need to have this allocation approved before the end of the fiscal year. So June 30th is when K-State's fiscal year ends, and we need to have this money allocated by that time. So really our hard deadline on this is April 28th. That is the last Senate meeting of the year because we don't meet finals week or dead week, unless President Volgamore wants to call a special session for us over the summer to debate and vote on the sports club allocation, which I'm getting a no from him. So the 28th of April is our hard deadline to vote and pass this piece of legislation or vote and fail this piece of legislation. Senator Scheer? Go ahead.
Okay, hi. So specifically on this idea to send it back to the Senate Executive Committee, I don't necessarily see like any good reason to do that. I think that we can look at just every single person who's debated in the negative for this amendment, and I'm pretty sure it is almost every member of the Senate Executive, at least the chairs that are in the body. So I think sending it back to that committee, I think we'd already know what their opinion would be. They've already all discussed it like openly here. I also am not totally sure why they would be the best committee to send it to. I don't see why we couldn't send it to the allocation committee. I know this would be their first meeting, and that'd be a little crazy, but like theoretically, they've been specifically selected to be like the most experts on allocation out of the entire student body. So could be a like fun first meeting for them. I don't know, but I don't really know why the Synod exec would be more qualified than the allocations committee to discuss this, besides that they've already seen it before. But I mean, again, that it's probably not going to make a big impact. I also really question the motivations to send it back to committee, if not just to essentially erase the amendment in the first place. It seems almost like a way to work around the amendment instead of just kind of letting it happen. The only reasons we've been given so far is just to like have further discussion, which I think is a good idea in theory, but we should really have more of a like plan outlined in front of us about what that discussion would look like and what those intentions would be beyond just like the sentiment of like, let's just wait and look at it further, you know, like why, essentially. Yeah, so.
Thank you for that debate. In the negative, Senator Scheer, we're now seeking debate in the positive. Sorry, Peyton, sit down. Chair Talbert. Sorry, I was just confused. I thought you maybe had a motion.
No.
Chair Talbert.
Okay.
I am in favor of sending it to exec because of the reasoning that I think it would be only fair to invite or even allow the organization presidents from all these groups to have the right to be able to say, well, hey, why were we not allowed to have this same opportunity? So I think it's only right to say, well, if they can come here and request it to Senate, these presidents, and I also would say the 20 presidents that also were late and didn't get any funding, should also be able to come speak to exec. So,
Thank you for that debate in the positive, Chair Talbert. I'm now seeking debate in the negative. Senator Anderson.
I have a question for Rich. Didn't this amendment already go through the exec?
So a different amendment went through the Senate Executive Committee. Yeah, a different amendment went through the Senate Executive. Chief of Staff Richenberg. Debate in the negative. Granted.
Hello, everyone. I'm loving debate today. I told myself coming into the role of Chief of Staff that I was really only going to use my speaking rights for, something that I was really, really passionate about. And this is something I'm really, really passionate about. As you know, me and the exec team, we sit on the Senate exec team, and so we have, we saw the conversations on Tuesday. I had to leave early, sadly, but, I got a good wrap up from Speaker Porter. Quite frankly, I don't think if we send this to Senate exec, these conversations are going to change. I think really the people made their opinions clear on exec that they absolutely just didn't want to give money to sports club and the rodeo and the club baseball team. And so I'm worried that this is going to get sent back to committee, so then this can be reestablished and kick them out, which we just had that amendment. And so I think we're just, we're doing something we really shouldn't have to do. So yeah, and it's a waste of time and energy. Oh, I'm done. Sorry.
Thanks for that debate, Marta. I'm now seeking debate in the positive. Chair Pondillo.
Hey guys, so to give a little bit context behind what amendment had previously went to Senate exec, it was amendment with table tennis. That had failed, and so these two organizations by themselves came together, just them two. They didn't involve table tennis. I think creating a conversation that is fair and equitable is including all these organizations, including table tennis, to give everyone a seat at the table, because if we're going to throw out random amounts, it should be certified by someone who is of caliber. To continue on, I feel as if the point that a previous speaker had brought up of it's just going to be the same outcome, if that were the case, we would not be here right now debating on it. I think sending this to Senate exec gives it an open option for everyone to come, talking about equity here, coming from the DEI chair. But yeah, it just makes it fair, reasonable for everyone. If there were to be the same vote on it, we obviously wouldn't do this. So yeah, bada bing, bada boom, I'm done.
Thank you for that debate in the positive, Chair Pondilla. We are now seeking debate in the negative, Chair Saya.
Okay, so I think the motion to refer this back to a committee is absolutely a valid choice. I think that two things are important. First, we should allow all clubs the right to have commentary like we have tonight. And second, we want to make sure that whatever committee can have an in-depth discussion on the merits of the amounts requested and make sure that process can be reviewed in its own right, the same as it was for every other club that received funding from sports clubs. I'm up here because I don't agree with the decision to send it to exec. I think the sentiments expressed before that the opinion is going to be roughly the same is very reasonable. A previous speaker said, why not send this to the allocations committee? I think that's 100% the correct choice. So as soon as I have the option, I'm going to move to refer it to the Student Allocations Committee, which I believe has the designated interest and expertise to be able to handle this question fairly.
Thanks for that debate, Nick. We are now seeking speeches in the positive. Chair Lynn.
Yeah, so a couple speakers ago, my motivations for sending this back to exec were called into question, and I would really like to clear that up. I'm not a member of Senate exec. I wasn't there to on Monday when they had this conversation, but in Senate Executive Committee, it was a different amendment that was debated on. The argument's been made that it's going to be the exact same conversation in Senate Exec that they had last week, and that there's going to be absolutely no changes to the outcome. However, the amendment that was presented to the Senate Executive Committee was not the amendment that we voted on the floor today. So there is no reason to make the argument that it's going to be the exact same. Senate Executive Committee hasn't had the chance to debate this amendment. Sending it back to the people that have already talked about it for this term, I think is what makes the most sense. And I would absolutely love to see all of the other sports clubs that turned in their applications late or didn't submit them on time, and then all of these sports clubs that we gave allocations to, and invite them to that conversation so that they can also take money out of the reserves, because that's the precedent that we've set now.
Thanks for that debate, Peyton. We are now seeking debate in the negative.
No debate. Question
Senator
privilege.
Kidd, granted.
Can it be reclarified? So the number of sports clubs that we're looking at right now in this legislation, what does that compare to the number of sports clubs that are not that exist but aren't on this list? How much more are there? How many more?
Jacob, how many sports clubs are there?
I believe there are 27 total. 12 other. To clarify previous speakers' points, I believe the intent.
Jacob, no. That is outside the bounds of the question.
Well, so I think 27-ish total.
So there are 27 clubs. The bill as it stands has 17 on it, so there are 10 that did not get any money. Granted.
Bonus question of privilege. Were there any other sports clubs that attempted to turn in any sort of funding requests past the deadline?
Jacob?
4.
4 tried to get a request in past the deadline. Granted.
Sorry, thank you. So 4 meaning rodeo club, baseball club, and then 2 others, or 4 meaning those 2 plus 4 others?
Plus.
Okay, cool.
So 6.
Yes. 6 or 5, I apologize.
Granted.
Okay, so sorry, bonus, question of privilege. Do we know how much money they were asking for?
Do you know off the top of your head, Jacob?
I know none of them.
Okay. Yep. So we are now seeking debate in the negative. Matthew.
Is that allowed? I don't
Yes.
know.
So to clarify what I said earlier, 2 debates on any pending question, not just 2 debates, period. So you got your 2 debates on the amendment, now you get your 2 debates on the motion to refer.
I wasted all my lives?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I would just kind of like to say that it was brought up earlier that we should allow all the clubs the opportunity, that didn't get this to come speak on this. I would like to argue that I think they did have the opportunity by proposing an amendment or also being here. There was an email sent out to all of us that would have been affected by this that was discussed earlier, that there is a possibility that your funding changes. So I mean, I think that is important to know. I would also just kind of like to reiterate something earlier that out of the sports clubs that were emailed, we are the two that showed up for this. And so I think it's very fair to say that they knew that their funding could change. They knew that this was definitely an opportunity. And so I think their choice was kind of shown here by who attended the meeting tonight.
Chair Pondillo.
Oh, I like to debate in the positive. Sorry.
Yep, sorry. We are debating the positive.
I'm right at it. So commenting on the previous speaker's points, so this was a Tuesday night, recall me, speaker? Thank you. So it is not equitable to give these organizations 2 days, which they may have prior obligations, to assume that they'll be here to speak. Giving more context behind the original amendment, these is originally 3 clubs, but now 2. The other one's not here tonight. They weren't part of the amendment, and I don't know why. But to give you more context behind it, these 2 organizations were going to be pulling money from different clubs. And that is the reason why we as Senate exec did not find it appealing to vote in favor of that. And so what is being sent back to Senate exec is something completely different, where it's coming out of a reserve rather than taking money from additional or other clubs. The end.
Thank you for that debate in the positive, Joseph. Chair Thomas?
Point of information.
Granted.
Were there other clubs that wanted to come?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I know for a fact that there was at least one club president here earlier that had to leave early, and I know there was at least one club president that is actually at a sport club event out of town right now that couldn't make it in person and was maybe going to try to join on Zoom. They aren't on the Zoom right now, though. Chair Phillips?
Next debate.
Debate in the negative?
Yeah.
Granted.
I defer to Max Harman.
Granted.
All right, all buckle up. I am sincerely, this is an apology. So, Blake and I have been discussing in the back, and I'm going to very much apologize because I think, based on what we have talked about, in the Sports Clubs Reserve Student Services Fee contract, it contradicts itself a little bit. At the first part of the contract, that's where we allocate $16,000 every year out of the reserve to fill everything else. Just below that, there's a clause that specifically states sports clubs reserves account money shall only be allocated from the sports clubs reserve account for organizations traveling to their national competition or for new teams who need startup money. So, based on that, I have come to the conclusion, which I think is the right conclusion, which might require interpretation, but I don't think it is. The contract contradicts itself a little bit, indeed, which I sincerely apologize. I should have caught this. This is all my fault. This amendment, the reserves, was my idea, and I should have looked through that contract and tried and caught that contradiction. But based on the contract, that's the general idea behind that clause states that we don't allocate money from the reserves account just for student organizations. That's only for people traveling to their nationals and to startup clubs in need of new funding. That's not technically, I don't think, a way that we can allocate from that without contradicting that. And so, with that information, we debated this for a while, what the best way to do with that was. One thought was to pass this motion, send it to exec, fix it there. It was decided, I think, that that is not the best way to do that. That's going to spend more time in next week's Senate and take up Senate exec's time. So, based on all of that, my recommendation is that we fail the motion to refer to Senate exec. We therefore are then discussing a motion to postpone it until next week, which we fail. Then we are discussing back to the main bill, I believe, correct? At that point, we would need to reconsider the amendment, second that, pass the reconsideration, fail the amendment, pass the bill tonight, and everything is set. Then we pass the bill in its original form. And I am so sorry. I genuinely am. I know that this has spent a lot of your all's valuable time this evening, and I do sincerely apologize. This is 100% my mistake, and I am happy to answer questions, of which I'm sure there is at least 2.
Senator Lynn.
I have a question.
Privilege?
Yeah, sure.
Granted.
If we were to pass this bill in the form that it is right now with the amendment, what happens because that violates the contract?
That is an excellent question.
I thought so.
I think perhaps we are subject to legal penalties for violating a contract. Max said no.
So the contracts are, there's no like outside, essentially, there's no outside governing body who is like looking at these contracts and will punish us. Like this is an internal contract. This is within K-State. And so likely how this will come out, the accountants at the very least will come back and be like, yo, we don't think you can do that. Of course, they'll say it just like that. And if not that, audit will almost assuredly catch it. It'll be a ding on the audit, which is bad. Like we should abide by all of our rules. And then very possibly it could be interpreted, brought up, like challenged and brought up for an interpretation from tribunal on the judicial side, which would all be very interesting and spicy, and we would all learn a whole heck of a lot, but I don't think that's probably the route we want to take.
I do want to add a little bit about something that Max said when he said get an interpretation from tribunal. So the Student Tribunal is a body in the judicial branch of Student Governing Association, and we are empowered to ask them to interpret like words or phrases or clauses in our governing documents if there is some ambiguity or confusion about the meaning or the intent of that word or phrase or clause in the governing document. So that is what Max is suggesting could possibly happen. Senator Kidd.
Question of privilege.
Granted.
So earlier it was discussed the mechanisms to which the reserves could be used and whatnot. Are there any other avenues, or are there any other avenues of funding that could be tapped into for what we're discussing right now?
Absolutely. If clubs are not, there's a rule, clubs, I don't believe, can double dip. If they're receiving sports club funding, that means they can't apply for travel throughout the year. Is that correct?
So that is correct. If they have received sports club funding.
Perfect. So if we pass the bill, reconsider the amendment, strike that down, rodeo and baseball don't receive sports club funding, they would not have to be designated sports clubs and would be able to apply for travel funding, just like our normal allocations process, which would be a way to defray some of those costs. They wouldn't receive as much as this bill would have them, but they would be able to defray some of those costs, which they're aware of. Like we talked about that before Senate, and so they know that's a possible plan B.
Senator Grills.
Is there a way that we can pull funding from the same place that we pull funding for all of these sports clubs and apply that to the amendment without absolutely ruining everything that's right there?
Right, so that's kind of like the hinging question. That's what the amendment is doing. The place where we're pulling funding to fund all the normal clubs is from the normal priv fee allocation plus a little bit extra from their reserve account. This amendment pulls extra money from that reserve account. The problem is on clause 2 of the sports club's contract, it says we pull $16,000 each fiscal year for that use. Clause 3 says that money in the sports club's reserve account shall only be allocated to either teams who have qualified and will be attending their national competition or to newly registered teams that are in need of startup funding. So
The contract states that sports clubs reserve shall only be used in those circumstances, yet the contract also states that we pull from that reserve to fund the normal allocation, which is a contradiction, but will be corrected, I'm sure, when the new contracts are made for the next review. Does that answer your question?
It does. Am I allowed, there's so many hands in the air.
I'll grant you a follow-up after we've answered some of the questions. They might catch your question.
Okay, they probably.
President Vogelmore?
When does that money go to the reserve account? So it comes out of the line item of the service fee, and then it's allocated to these clubs, and then the leftover amount goes to the reserve account.
Yes,
Is that
so
correct? Does that happen?
what will
after
happen
this is
when we
passed?
come back in the fall, you will see a piece of legislation on the floor of Senate that is 2022, fiscal year 2022 closing of accounts. Any account that has money left in it, we close, and it goes to the respective reserve account that it came out of. So any money that they spend from the fiscal year 2023 allocation won't come back into the reserves until fiscal year 2024, which will be like the fall 2 years.
So the reserve we're pulling from is from last year's fiscal year that we put in?
Yes, the reserve balance that we pulled the 16,000 out of, we allocated the reserve money from the student services fee line item. No, we allocated the money from the student services fee line item. Unspent money went back into the account. Unspent money from previous fiscal years just stayed in the account.
Yeah, and there's also a large rollover balance. That account was higher in the past, and so it rolls over year to year, that reserve account.
Okay, who has a question and who has debate?
I have a question.
Okay, Senator Bellamy,
Yeah, can I defer my speaking rights to Mr. Booth?
you can.
Yeah, because questions of privilege and whatever are technically motions. Yeah, so I mean, would an amendment that did the same thing as the amendment that was presented to Senate Exec on Tuesday, that is, it's not drawing more than any money from reserves, that would have worked, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Wanted to get that clear.
Senator Oury.
Okay, so I'm not following any of this. I'm gonna need like a simplification.
I sent
every
you
single-
the,
I got the contact.
cool, yeah. It might be helpful to, if you want to put it up there.
Okay, so give me just a second. Bryce, can you go to my email inbox? Go to the inbox, that's my sent folder. Thank you. That one unread one, and open that Word document. So the highlighted portion that's up on the screen is what explains why what we did is not possible. Basically, what happened was the amendment made it so that we pulled more than $16,000 out of the reserve account. Per this contract, we are not allowed to pull more than $16,000 out of the reserve account. So as Max explained, we have to work our way backwards through all of the pending motions, get back to debate on the original bill. Someone should present a new amendment to revert the bill back to the original text, and then we can either refer it back to a committee, amend it differently, or just vote on it. But we have two pending motions, and then the actual question to get to. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Are there any further questions, or is there any further debate? Okay. Any debate in the positive? Any debate in the negative? Any debate at all? Awesome. We are going to vote on the motion to refer the bill to the Senate Executive Committee. That is a majority vote. So, all those in favor of referring the legislation to the Senate Executive Committee, raise your hands. Proxies, raise 2. All those opposed to referring it to the Senate Executive Committee. Okay, awesome. That motion does fail. So we are now moving back into debate on the motion to postpone this bill for 1 week. Senator Hoffman.
I move to withdraw that motion.
Blake, is that in order? If there's already been debate on a motion and the maker of the motion withdraws it, do we just move on?
With the permission, is there a second, you can withdraw it.
Who seconded it? You seconded it, Joseph? Okay, do you give him permission? Did you second Jacob's original motion to postpone for 1 week?
That was me. I give permission.
Okay, so the maker of the motion has requested withdrawal of their motion, and the seconder has given permission, so that motion stands withdrawn, which means we are now back to debate on the original Bill 2, as amended, or not the original, the amended Bill 2, because that amendment was still adopted. Senator Lynn,
Can I reconsider the amendment?
Second. It has to be someone from the prevailing side, meaning someone who voted yes.
raise your hand if you voted yes on the amendment. Do any of you want to make the motion to reconsider?
Yeah, I move to reconsider the amendment.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by someone on the prevailing side to reconsider the amendment. That is not a debatable motion and requires a majority vote. So all those in favor of reconsidering the amendment, raise your placards now. Proxies raised too. So the amendment that we passed that took money out of the reserve account, that's what we're reconsidering. Okay, yeses, lower your hands. Noes, raise your hands. Okay, we are now reconsidering the amendment, which means that we will go back into debate on the amendment. Yeah, we will go back into debate on the amendment. Yeah, Blake, am I right here?
Do what?
Can we go? Are we going back into debate on the amendment, or can we just call the question now since we had so much debate earlier?
I would technically debate restarts, but
Okay.
I think too much debate.
So we are now taking. I'm now seeking speeches in the positive on the amendment. Okay, I am now seeking speeches in the negative on the amendment. Are there any speeches at all on the amendment? You have to be positive or negative, Cole. You can't be in the middle.
Positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I do like not quite, just last minute speeches all the time. So you're good.
First of all, let me just say, wow. I was not expecting this, and if tonight has taught me anything, it is that government is working. At least trying to. I want to thank everybody for their interest in this. This was something that was extremely near and dear to, Matthew as well. This is a big thing, and for everyone who has had to sit here and listen and who is tired and wants to go home and has class in the morning that they're going to skip and not go to. I'm sorry, but I think if this shows us anything, it should show us that there needs to be some serious restructure to how we do this, and I have no doubt in my mind with that. And I just want to thank you all once again. Like I said, if I'm up here blabbering, I'm sorry. You all are very interesting people. I will give you that. This has been something that I won't forget, and thank you all for everything. And it's been one heck of a ride, I'll tell you that.
Thanks for that debate, Cole. So we are now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there any speakers in the negative? Are there any speeches in the positive? Senator Navarro.
Hello. My name is Andrew Navarro, and I'm currently going to speak in the positive for this. So basically, the sentiment that I'm getting is that there are a lot of rules and regulations to what we are doing. And I feel like these rules and regulations, although valid, are going to get in the way of us trying to give money to our students. Because I understand that it's incredibly frustrating that these clubs did not reach the deadlines that they did. And that's frustrating for the Travel Allocations Committee, that's frustrating for SGA in general. But in order for us to truly feel like we are representing and distributing money to students, especially in such a way that can develop, and you really wouldn't hear this from me, but in a way that could develop culture through K-State, through the rodeo club, as well as through club baseball as well. I feel like it's imperative that we choose to represent and give money to the people that came out here, waited for this 3 hours, and did the things that the other clubs did not. Thank you.
Thanks for that debate, Andrew. Is there any debate in the negative? President
Question
Voldemort?
of privilege.
Granted.
Who or where do these contracts come from, and is it within our jurisdiction as SGA to alter these contracts in any way, shape, or form?
So this is the contract that came from the Privilege Fee Committee. If one of our Privilege Fee chairs that's in the back of the room, excuse me, Student Services Fee Committee chairs that's in the back of the room wants to answer that, feel free.
So this was passed by Student Senate a couple of terms ago. It was agreed to by the student body, and a signed agreement was made between various leadership in SGA and the entity director for sports clubs, which I guess would be the treasurer at the time. And so that agreement is made. The only way that we can change that is to, I'm going to call it pulling this entity out of cycle, meaning we choose to review them right now, make a new contract, agree to it, have it signed, and then pass it. And that is...
Yeah, so to expand on that a little bit, for anyone that might have been confused by that explanation, we review our contracts through the student services fee on a 3-year rolling cycle. It is not, at this time, we are not reviewing the sports club fee budget agreement, Chapter 51 of the statutes, if you're interested. So the Student Services Fee Committee would have to vote to pull this out of its normal 3-year cycle. We would have to meet with the people that represent, Blake, would it be Juan?
No, it would be Jacob.
Okay, it would be Jacob as the chair of the Travel Allocations Committee. Since he is the chair of the body that controls this money, he would have to meet with the Student Services Fee Committee. They'd have to negotiate a new contract, and we would have to vote in Senate to pass that contract in order for us to be able to allocate money out of the reserve account if it is agreed by everyone in the negotiation to strike that line from the contract. So it's a very long process, and we don't have time before the end of the fiscal year to do that process. Technically, we do, but we really don't. Senator Kidd.
Question of privilege, when would this naturally come up in cycle for review?
We will actually be reviewing this in the fall.
You said that, cool, thanks.
Yep, so it's their year, it's just not time yet, so we would have to vote to do it now. Senator McPhee.
I just wanted to debate in the negative.
Debate in the negative?
Yeah, whenever we get to that.
Yeah, granted.
Hi, I never talk up here, but I've been hearing a lot of points tonight about this amendment, and obviously everyone's really torn about it. But point blank, just there's a contract, and this amendment breaches that contract, and sometimes there are consequences to our actions, and you just gotta roll with that and figure it out. This will happen again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. The rodeo club and the baseball club will still be around. I promise you that. It's not going anywhere. And it sucks that maybe this term you're not getting the money, but sometimes that's just how it has to be. The government is here to keep structure and order at Kansas State, and as much as every single person here loves everything about Kansas State, I mean, that's why we're here. We wouldn't do it if we didn't. I mean, this has been a long meeting, so that'd be kind of weird if we didn't. But we can't live in fantasy land sometimes. Sometimes this is just the real world, and that's how it works. Not to say the baseball club and the rodeo club and any of the clubs that applied late and didn't get the money, they're all deserving, the same level. But sometimes the people who follow the rules and put it in on time, they get precedence over it, and they get first come, first serve, basically. So, and that's just how it's got to be sometimes. Thanks.
Thanks for that debate, Haley. Seeing as that was debate in the negative, I am now seeking speeches in the positive. Senator Bellamy?
You have a question of privilege.
Granted.
Can they request funds from tech?
From the Tuition Enhancements Committee?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. For anyone confused, the Tuition Enhancements Committee allocates the Educational Opportunity Fund, which is for historically underrepresented groups on campus, and it also allocates student-centered tuition enhancements dollars, which is for new startup initiatives for like innovative projects on campus. Neither of those clubs fall under those designations. Senator Kidd.
Question of privilege.
Granted.
The two DSOs listed in this document, are we aware, or is the allocations, was the allocations committee aware of any alternative sources of funding that could be pursued from those DSOs, those academic departments?
Yeah, Jacob, do you want to expand on that?
Shotgun expressed that they were not able to receive funds from the Ag Department, whether that is through legal reasons or just they did not receive funds, I do not know. Rodeo team, you guys expressed you received some funds, yes? Clarify what you.
We do get funding from the Animal Sciences Department. Elaborate further.
Well, yeah, and like Matthew mentioned earlier, they do like work the parking lots of the football games, and there are a couple other smaller fundraising, and the rodeo brings in some revenue for the team as well. Is there any debate in the positive? Matthew.
Is it a point of interest?
Point of information?
Or information, yeah.
Will someone defer their speaking rights to him?
I got it.
Yeah.
He's the president.
But, okay, so interesting parliamentary law decision that I made, executive decision that I made. So a point of information is a motion. Our laws say that they have speaking privileges, but it doesn't define what that is. Robert's Rules of Order, which I have up here, hello, I checked it out from the library, says that only members of the organization can make motions. Student organization presidents are not members of the student governing association organization. So they can't make motions, they can just speak and ask questions after debate because neither of those are making motions. So that's why we have to have deferred speaking rights for a question of privilege. Yeah, go ahead.
So the funding we do get from the Animal Sciences Department does not even cover our tractor lease for the year, so it's very minimal. And also, this has been way more than spicy. Everyone has called it spicy. This is wild.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any speeches in the positive? Are there any speeches in the negative? Are there any speeches at all? All right, seeing none, we will move into a vote on the amendment. We did this earlier, but since we reconsidered it, or no, we're moving into a vote on the motion. No, we reconsidered it. We're voting on the amendment. We are voting on the amendment itself. So, that being said, I've forgotten, it is a majority, and it is a hand vote. So all those in favor of adopting the amendment, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay. And all opposed to adopting the amendment, same signs. Okay, that amendment does fail. So now we are moving back into debate on Bill 2 itself. We had one speech in the positive. Now we have one. Now I am seeking speeches in the negative on Bill 2. Are there any speakers in the negative? Okay, seeing none, are there any speeches in the positive on Bill 2? Yeah, and are there any speeches at all? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna put the unamended version back up.
Thanks.
Bryce, will you just hit the undo button a few times on the? Or no, it's on. Sorry, it's on the agenda. So, seeing as we had no speakers, we will now move into a roll call vote on Bill 2. So, like Juan can explain it again, but like he explained earlier, how it worked.
All right, everybody. So a little refresher on how this is going to work. I'm going to call out your name. You're going to have 4 options. You're going to be able to vote yes, no, abstain, or pass. Yes and no are pretty clear. Abstain means you just don't want to vote either way, and pass means that I will skip you and come back to you after I've called everyone else's name. All right. Now, to start it off, Anderson.
No.
Bannister.
Yes, by proxy.
Barron.
Yes, by proxy.
Broughton.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, by proxy.
Compton.
Yes.
Davidson.
Yes.
DePaz.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Grills.
Yes.
Grolms.
Yes, by proxy.
Heatherman. Hoffman.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Collery Cole.
Yes, by proxy.
Kidd.
Pass.
Nisley. Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
McFarland.
Yes.
McPhee.
Yes.
Middaugh. Murphy.
Yes.
Navarro.
Yes.
O'Donohue.
Yes.
Oury.
Yes.
Pelton.
Abstain.
Phillips.
Yes.
Pilchard.
Yes.
Pondillo.
Yeah.
Rogers.
Yes.
Roth.
No.
Saya.
Yes.
Solomon.
Yes.
Shear Alexa.
Yes.
Shear Carson.
Yes.
Schindler.
Yes.
Stout.
No by proxy.
Strout.
Yes by proxy.
Talbert.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Volgamore.
Abstain.
And Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, going back to the passes, just one. Kidd.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. And that passes on a vote of 37 to 3 to 2.
Just as a side note, we generally don't clap after we pass bills. We can clap after resolutions, but just as a matter of decorum, no clapping after speeches and no clapping after bills. I just wanted to mention that. So now that we have voted on Bill 2, we will now move into final action on Resolution 8. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 8? Chair Long?
I move to Resolution 8.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. The author can come forward.
Not a final action, it's just an What?
Have any changes been made?
Not at all.
You're wrong. There are a couple new sponsors.
Oh, there are new sponsors.
Got him.
No changes to the bill. Alrighty, perfect. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was approached by Kathleen Hatch, who is the Morrison Family Associate Vice President for Student Wellbeing, about the desire that she had to include Kansas State in the Okanagan Charter. The Okanagan Charter is essentially a visionary framework for including compassion, well-being, equity, and social justice in the practices of a college campus. This seems like a really fantastic opportunity for us as Student Senate to support this initiative and allow them to go forward and hopefully become a co-signatory. But really, I want to be super brief and talk about why I think we gain a lot of advantages from this. So all it requires is for us to submit an action plan that really outlines how we as an institution are going to achieve the goals that this charter sets out. What that's going to do is first demonstrate a commitment to values that we want to practice, like equity and stewardship, values that are very important to Kansas State as a land-grant institution. It also allows us to accelerate existing initiatives that Kansas State has begun, including More Inclusive K-State and the Sustainability Action Plan. At the end of the day, it allows us to forward Big 12 leadership and become a leading campus in terms of the values that we identified. So at the end of the day, I see this as a really fantastic opportunity, and I thank Kathleen for allowing me to be a part of the process.
Awesome. Thanks for that debate, Nick. Senator Kidd?
Question privilege.
Granted.
It's too late to make friendly amendments, correct?
Ooh. We can make a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
They are friendly.
Okay, so I have one. Do I still have the floor to speak?
Go ahead.
Okay. So line 36, nothing against our VP of Student Life and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, but he's Dr. Thomas Lane, but no one else in the bottom part is a doctor. Well, I mean, they are doctors, obviously, but we're not addressing them as doctors. So can we either add doctors to everyone else, like Charles Tabor? I assume Kathleen has her PhD. Doctor, no, she doesn't. Okay, never mind, not her. But can we just be consistent with our titles if we add doctor or take them out?
Yeah, that is an excellent catch, Marcus. And
Sorry, I missed
Marcus.
off. Sorry.
Nick, you're cool with that?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Thank you for that catch, Marcus. That being said, is there any debate in the negative? Is there any further debate in the positive? Is there any further debate at all? Chair Long, positive or negative?
Positive.
Okay,
I'm done with negative.
go ahead.
Yeah, I actually gave this thing a read through, and it is really interesting and stuff that I didn't think about. So I am arguing for, and also kind of explaining what it is for some people. I guess I apologize if this gets boring real fast, but it is taking multiple factors into account that universities don't generally use to counter and to think about health with, like environmental soundness on campus and like social justice on campus. The charter is saying social justice and environmental efforts play into student health in the form of either physical, if the air is choking you, not health, or lack of justice, mental health. So this all around, we're not bound to anything, we're not going to do anything crazy, but it is really good for us to adopt and think about.
Thanks for that debate, Chair Long. Is there any debate in the negative? Is there any further debate in the positive? And is there any debate at all? All right, seeing none, we will take it away with a hand vote since this is a resolution. Yep, okay, so if you are in favor of passing Resolution 8, please raise your hand or placards now. Proxies raised too. Awesome, and no's, same sign. Yeah, we have quorum, Drew. Okay, awesome. So Resolution 8 does stand approved. Come again, Blake? What?
Technically, commendations and appointments are the only things we caught for, not resolutions general.
My bad.
We have love student health.
Cool.
Yeah, we like
Okay. Seeing that we have exhausted our final action items for tonight, we will now move into introduction of legislation. Is there a motion to consider Bill 3? Senator Salmon. It's been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward? And there she is.
Okay, this is Bill 22-2303, amendments to the KSU SGA Constitution regarding grade point average requirements. Author me, sponsors Evan, Porter, and Nick Saya. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association should continue to update its governing documents in order to reflect an inclusive and accepting body. Whereas there is currently a cumulative GPA requirement of 2.0 for undergraduate students and a cumulative GPA requirement of 3.0 for graduate students serving in KSU SGA. Whereas a student's GPA is not an accurate or meaningful reflection of ability to serve effectively in a KSU SGA position. Whereas students with academic challenges may have more difficulties in their classes than their peers, and GPA requirements for those students contribute to a culture of ableism. Whereas first-year college students can often struggle in their classes due to the intense transition between high school and college life, and therefore students in their first year of higher education are disproportionately affected by a cumulative GPA requirement. Whereas there are a plethora of extenuating circumstances in a student's life that could contribute to a below-average GPA, which does not correlate to their dedication or willingness to serve KSU SGA in this capacity. Whereas involvement in extracurricular activities statistically indicates better class attendance and higher GPAs than for students who are not involved extracurricularly. Whereas GPA requirements are an unnecessary and exclusionary requirement to serve in KSU SGA, and whereas a student that is chosen by their peers and is willing and able to serve in a position in KSU SGA should be allowed to serve regardless of cumulative GPA. Be it enacted that Section 1, Article 2, Section 202 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution should be amended to read as follows, and then just striking the minimum GPA requirement of 2.0 for undergrad or graduate students 3.0. Strike that line. And then Section 2, Article 5, Section 503 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution should be amended to read as follows. And then if you scroll down to Section H, striking that entire section, which mentions that student senators must maintain a cumulative GPA of 2.0 and 3.0. Section 3, this legislation shall take effect upon passage of the Student Senate and signature of the student body president.
Awesome, thanks, Peyton. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? I actually have one. The end of Section 3, we need to add "and ratification by the college and school councils." I had caught that originally, but when I remade the agenda, I missed that one. So we would strike the "and," add a comma after Senate, strike the period, add a comma there, and then add and ratification by the college and school councils, because this is a constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Anyway, any questions or corrections?
I also
Senator
have a
Kidd,
friendly amendment, real quick.
state the amendment.
In line 52, any member of the KSU SGA who is enrolled in a minimum of 1 semester, just to make that grammatically make more sense.
So just adding who after SGA?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Any further questions or corrections? Senator Kidd.
My question is, what was the current process of auditing GPAs for current SGA students? Or SGA senators?
It was checked by Kelly. So like when, at the time, Evan, ops chair, would get the names of the people that were like, say, a write-in or had been voted into a spot on Student Senate. When they accepted that seat, he would send those names to Kelly, and then Kelly would check their GPAs to make sure that they were eligible. I think that that was right.
You know, for appointments to like cabinet and stuff, she also ran that.
Yep, Kelly also checks independent positions, cabinet positions, really any SGA member. Kelly checks their GPA. Doesn't share that with anyone, but she just confirms that they are eligible to serve. Are there any further questions or corrections? Chair Long.
Is there like a university-wide GPA requirement, or like for clubs or anything, like CSI have one, or?
There is not. I talked to Kelly about that specific question, and like across the university, to be involved in organizations, there is not any sort of like overall GPA requirement. It's set specifically by each organization.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Senator Kidd.
Yes. As I believe it to be germane to this legislation, what are the current university policies? What are the current university academic policies in general for being a student in good standing or not in good standing?
I think if you have below a 2.0 GPA, you would be considered not in good standing. However, I would say that that does not make you any less of a student. You're still a student if you are not in good standing.
To expand on that a little bit and like add a little bit of clarification, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong here. 1 semester below a 2.0, you are on academic warning. 2 semesters below a 2.0, you are on probation. A 3rd semester, you are like expelled. Dr. Lane or Derek, am I correct in that? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Andrew?
Yeah, we've had a debate on requirements to be a student senator over the past couple of years, and we've moved towards removing requirements for that. What are requirements that are valid to be a student senator?
I think, were you gonna say something? Oh, you started to lead, sorry. I think our elections process is a really good indicator of who should or should not be allowed to serve in Student Senate. If your peers believe in you enough to put you in one of these seats, I think that that is plenty of say as far as who should be in SGA. I don't think that any of these arbitrary requirements that we have in our Constitution and other governing documents really speak to the effectiveness or willingness of any particular person to be able to fulfill their job.
Senator Kidd.
Since we have new senators in the room, and since I believe it to be germane to this legislation, what are the current requirements to be allowed? What are the current requirements for staying as a senator throughout the term?
You have to be enrolled in at least 1 credit hour. Let's see, if you look in the legislation, section 503, which starts on line 78, there are several like membership of Student Senate rules. But you have to be enrolled in at least 1 credit hour as a student. You technically shouldn't be, like, you shouldn't have a plan to like graduate at semester according to the bylaws and Constitution and stuff. And then there's some other specific ones, but it's a long list.
I have a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Blake, will you look at line 102?
Yeah.
Is that supposed to say 5 or 4? Because it says 5-4 right now.
We didn't add it back.
Obviously 9.
I can't remember if we made it 5.
Yeah, it's 4. That 5 would have been
accidentally left in there.
Yeah.
So I will actually just, since we were supposed to, I will just take that out of the Constitution. But I will note it to remember to do it. Anyway, any further questions for the author? All right, seeing none, you may take your seat. Thank you, Peyton. Okay, and with that, is there a motion to consider Bill 4? Senator Solomon?
I move to consider Bill 4. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 4. If the author will please come forward.
Hello, everyone. This is Bill 22-2304, Amendments to the KSU SGA statutes concerning diversity programming funds. Authors is Joseph Pondillo and me. Sponsors is Nick Saya, Joseph Pondillo, and myself. Whereas the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee allocates diversity programming funds to projects with educational value that are intended to provide cross-cultural learning experiences or education on the topics of diversity, inclusion, or discrimination based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, disability, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, geographic location, or age. Whereas the diversity programming funds have been historically underutilized, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee allocated $173,828 of their budgeted $175,000 in FY 2018, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee allocated $151,765 of their budgeted $175,000 in FY 2019, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee allocated $170,000. I'm just going to do that, of their budgeted $175,000 in FY 2020, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee allocated $60,000 of their budgeted $61,000 in FY 2022 or 2021, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee allocated $61,000 of their budgeted $144,000 in FY 2022, whereas leftover funds are moved to the Diversity Programming Committee reserve account each fiscal year, whereas as of August 2021, the Diversity Programming Committee reserve account totaled $222,207.51, whereas the Diversity Programming Committee reserve account was cut $190,000 during the insufficient funds process last year, whereas as of February 2022, the Diversity Programming reserve account totaled $122,815.51. Whereas the Diversity Programming Committee reserve account continually has unused funds in it, despite substantial callbacks by the Student Services Fee Committee. Whereas the DEI Committee should utilize as much of the Diversity Programming Fund each year to achieve its cross-cultural learning goals as possible. Whereas organizations are dissuaded from applying for diversity programming funds because they cannot meet the $3,000 or more allocation request minimum and must look to other less adequate funding sources. Whereas organizations' realizable cross-cultural learning impact at K-State is diminished due to the limit of 2 events per fiscal year. Whereas increasing the total number of projects the committee can fund per organization per fiscal year to 3 will allow organizations to put on additional events, and whereas additional small-scale and large-scale cross-cultural experiences and education projects positively impact the culture of K-State. We had enacted that, and the 2 changes are 1 on line 82, 2 is crossed out for 3 events per year, and on line 111, the line request for allocations of $3,000 or more is just gotten rid of, and the sub-letters are corrected. What'd you say? In section 2? What are you talking about? Oh, sorry. Yes, section 2. The legislation will take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of Student Body President.
Thanks, RJ. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Kidd?
Yeah. Actually, I withdraw my question. Sorry.
Awesome, thanks. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? All right, seeing none, you may take your seat. Thanks, RJ. Okay, seeing that we have now exhausted our entire legislative agenda, we will now move into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Protopor Pineda Gomez.
Okay, hello everybody. We've had a long night, so I'll try and keep this somewhat brief. A couple of things. I want to kind of start off by saying the Senate shoutouts form is still open, so fill those out right now if you haven't yet. Next thing is for the college caucuses. Thanks to everybody that has already sent me your goals. I still need some from arts and sciences, business, and engineering. If you could get those to me by next Thursday, that'd be phenomenal. And then last thing is, especially this goes out to like new senators. Like you've heard a lot about Senate Exec tonight. And that's kind of like, that may be kind of strange. Senate Exec basically is a committee that has all the committee chairs as well as the speaker and the speaker pro tempore, and a few members from the executive branch as well as independent positions. That is an open committee. You are welcome to come to it at any time. We meet on Tuesday nights from 6, 7. Okay, we meet on Tuesday nights at 7, so please come to that. It's actually a really cool chance to see what SGA leadership is thinking and kind of where the direction that we're going on that. So yeah, that was my little spiel. Thanks.
Thanks. Are there any questions for Juan? Senator Salmon. Oh, do you have a second open period speech?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, hello everyone. The LGBTQ Leadership Conference is happening, it's the Kansas LGBTQ Leadership Conference, is happening here at K-State on Friday the 22nd in the Multicultural Student Center and also in Forum Hall in the Union. It's starting at 8 a.m. in the morning. There's a welcome in Forum Hall that starts at 9:15. There are 3 different blocks that are happening throughout the day. Each block has 3 different sessions you can go to, so you can just pick and choose what's interesting to you. At 11 o'clock specifically, there is a keynote speaker, which is Dr. Tori Gleason. I don't have a lot of background on that individual, but apparently a really cool person. Excited to have them talk and stuff. It's going to be really cool. I've been a part of the planning committee for this over the past couple months since summer happened. And so I've gotten to work with Brandon Haddock, of the director of the LGBT Resource Center, a ton of other individuals. I would really recommend going. You can register for it for free. You don't have to do anything. And it's going to be a good time because there's a lot of cool speakers there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, RJ. Are there any questions for the speaker? All right. And are there any further second open period speakers? Chair Long.
Well, that was fun. So, when we elect new chairs, we usually have transition meetings with between the old chair and the new chair. So the previous, I was like the travel allocations chair appointed last term, and I sat down for my transition meeting, and I asked about sports clubs, and the previous chair said, "Oh, don't worry about that. It'll be really quick. Won't be controversial at all." That was a little untrue, apparently. Did I think that it would come down to a single line in the privilege fee contract? Also, no. So here we are. Next, people discuss that obviously changes need to be made. Agreed. You'll see them next week. So yeah, it's been a long night, but this is how it's supposed to work, and I am glad everybody did what they did tonight because we operated how we should have. So if you have thoughts on the sports club changes that need to happen, please email me. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about how they can get it, how they're notified, and stuff like that. It'll be good. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. Are there any further second open period speakers? Chair Talbert.
I should have said this during committee reports, but I've already started as ops chair. One of the things that we have to do as ops is fill vacancies. So I've already been sending out emails to for the colleges that have vacancies, and we already have one person that says they want to be a senator. So, nice. And they're ag.
I do want to add to that very briefly. The College of Veterinary Medicine caucus and the Architecture, Planning, and Design caucuses are empty. If you know anyone in those colleges that is even remotely interested in serving as a senator, tell them to email me. I will sit down and have a conversation with them. And I just want to do everything that we can to fill those 4 vacant seats so we can have as much student representation as possible. Anyway, are there any questions for Chair Talbert? All right, seeing none, you may take your seat. Are there any further second open period speakers? Chair Phillips.
Howdy, everyone. Throwing it back to Jacob's speech for a second. Jumping on the train of change. So that student services fee contract, like I mentioned, is up for review this coming fall. I don't have those exact dates set on when that's going to be yet. I'll be talking to entity directors here shortly to get that hammered out. But I can guarantee you that language in the contract where $16,000 is allocated every year from the reserve account is not going to be there in the future because that reserve account only has $28,000 in it. And so we could only do that one time, not 3 times. So that will definitely be changing along with maybe some other changes. So if you are interested in being a part of those changes or coming to the committee and seeing what that's all about, you are more than welcome to come. Please just let me know and I will keep you in the loop on exactly when those dates will be. And in the fall, I'll also be keeping you all in the loop on that as we go.
Awesome. Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions? Senator Kidd.
I didn't think of this until just now, so I sincerely apologize. For the contract, as it reads, are there any resources or documents that you have access to that annotate and explain why why certain pieces were added in as they were, and what they were inspired by, or
Yeah. So the only documents that would refer to would be the previous legislation that approved that contract, the whereas clauses may specify. I haven't seen that legislation, so that potentially, other than that, committee minutes would also be something that we could look at for that.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? All right, seeing none, you may take your seat. And are there any further second open period speakers? Senator Grills, is that your placard? Are you wanting to speak? Okay, go ahead.
A lot of tall people up here tonight. I just wanted, this is not about anything in particular. I just wanted to challenge the body. I think that in the past, we've spent most of our time, and this was not tonight. Tonight, we did a really good job focusing on what's important, right? I think in the past, we've spent a lot of time introducing legislation that only affects our body, and like changes to student government and changes to our contracts and changes to things like that. And we spend a lot of time doing that rather than advocating for students with those types of pieces of legislation. We're in a fresh term. And so I just wanted to challenge everyone this year. And this is not about anything in particular. I think this is just about last term and things that we've seen in the past. I just want to see a lot more push for change for students rather than just change for rules that affect the 60 people that are in this room for the next 3 years. And then, we alternate out of that. So just keep that on your mind when you're writing legislation. If this could just be a conversation rather than just this huge debate about some tiny wording change. So just want to challenge people.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ashley. And I do just want to tack on there, if you have an idea for some legislation, feel free to come to me at any time, come to Juan at any time, go to your committee chair, your caucus leader. All of those people are going to be more than happy to help you get that legislation written. So just because you don't know how to, or where to get started, don't let that be an obstacle. All of us are 100% willing and looking forward to the chance to help you through that process. Ashley, did you have something to add? Or were you just waiting for questions?
Yeah, I figured you were going to say that, so I figured.
Are there any questions for the speaker? All right, seeing none, you can take your seat. And are there any further second open period speakers? Senator Kidd.
All right, I promise I will be super, super brief. I just wanted to give a friendly reminder and encourage Agent to remind you all to ask questions in Senate. From the guy that's been here, normally almost every meeting at that seat for the past several years, a total of 9 years. There's still a lot about Senate that I don't even know, right? And so I think a goal I set for myself is just to be more present. And so being more present in meetings is also a good way to procrastinate from working on my dissertation. So it was great asking a lot of questions tonight because I had a good excuse to not work on that. So, but don't be afraid to be the dumb one in the room. There's a lot of times when I ask questions that I wish I could be a little bit more well composed by some other fabulous people here, but I'm not. It's still a good question, and I would encourage you all to think less about how others may interpret your question, because the question is for you. A lot of the questions I asked tonight were valuable to me, and I hope that they were valuable to you as well. So just another friendly reminder just to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So thanks. Peace out.
Thanks for that, Marcus. And are there any further second open period speakers? I actually have one. I'm going to say here, but I just want to say, huge shout out to all of you for sticking it out tonight. I know this is 3.5 hours that we've been here. This is, it's been a lot of complicated parliamentary procedure. Thank you to everyone that helped me through that. I really appreciate your presence and your willingness to help out. But I do want to say again that this is exactly what Student Senate is designed to do. We were here, we had a lot of people, we had a lot of senators advocating for students, no matter what side you were on, advocating for students keeping their money, advocating for students getting money. That is exactly what this body is designed to do, is to represent and advocate for those students, and we did exactly that tonight. So I just want to give you all a huge round of applause for sticking it out and advocating for students as passionately as you do. And as a quick plug to our new senators, they are not all like this. Please do not resign because of this one. we really want you to stick around. It'll get better. There's just a lot of business that we have to take care of, especially here at the beginning, but I promise it will get better. But I have nothing else, unless anyone has any questions for me. All right, seeing none, are there any further second open period speakers? Okay, seeing none, Juan will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Okay, we'll try and make these quick. Huge welcome to all my Student Services Fee Committee members. I'm so excited to get to work with you all this term. Go Serve Fee. Shout out to calculators. Shout out to the Cowboy Channel. Shout out to all the caucus chairs that have been elected tonight. Howdy. Shout out to the Mobile Development Club. Shout out to Parliamentarian Atchison for timing all those speeches today and possibly playing Minecraft. Congratulations to the new caucus leaders who have been elected tonight. I look forward to seeing what these new caucuses accomplish in the future. Shout out to debate. That's it. To Dr. Lane and Derek Jackson for hanging out with us tonight. Shout out to contracts and ... Max. Remember, at the end of the day, we're all here for students. Shout out to everyone who stayed late tonight, especially club members. This isn't normal, but it's important. Shout out to everyone that gave debate for the first time tonight. Shout out to Haley McPhee for being the voice of reason. Shout out to the girls and the gays. Haley being a voice for us all. Shout out to the baseball club and the rodeo club. We will get you that money. Shout out to the queen that is Peyton. Shout out to Max Harman and Andrew Booz for not wanting to put the SGA yearbook away. We love you, Juan Pineda Gomez for speaking. Thank you, rodeo and baseball, for your passion. Keep on. Chair Long's eyebrows are scary. Bryce, how is your Minecraft going? Juan looks like the cool PTA dad. Marta, will you marry me? Your secret admirer. Shout out to the non-SGA students coming to Senate. Also, shout out to everyone who helped make them feel comfortable. I am so proud of all of you for being so approachable. There's a lot of pro-deadline people here. Stealth professors, ? Shout out to Alexa for being a stud. And that is it.
Awesome. And with that, Juan's going to take it away with our second roll call. Oh, no, sorry. I will refer the legislation first. So Bill 3, that is going to go to the Senate Executive Committee, and Bill 4 will be going to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
Okay, for second roll call, we'll make it fast. Anderson.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Broughton. Here. Compton.
Here.
Davidson.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Grills. Wow, excuse me. Gromas. Oh, by proxy, yeah. Hoffman.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Did I skip one? I apologize. Okay. Kidd.
Here.
Isley. Lister. Long.
Here.
Lister's here. Okay. Lynn.
Here.
McFarland.
Here.
McPhee.
Here.
Middaugh. Murphy.
Here.
Navarro.
Here.
O'Donohue.
Here.
Oury.
Here.
Pelton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Pondillo.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Roth. Saya.
Here.
Salmon.
Here.
Shear Alexa.
Here.
Schindler.
Here.
Talbert.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Volgamore.
Here.
And Wolf.
Here.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. And with that, is there a motion for adjournment? Senator Salmon.
I would adjourn, same time, same place next week. Second.
Okay. Any objections? We stayed adjourned. We were 1 minute over my over-under on when we were going to get out of Senate. I said 10:15 with a 15-minute over-under. It is 10:31. Fudge it, Juan. Fudge it on the minutes.
Oh, not those. Sorry, I mean the ones. Yeah, that's good. I will get that to you. Sorry. We had a whole another long election. I'll get
That's not a conversation then, actually. That is, you just stuck it. Yak.
One, if they're not here again next week, what do I do? Two, will all the invitations by next week Thank you guys. Have a good night.